101 ESPN.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive. Happy Monday. Brooke Grimsley here alongside Matthew Rocchio, and pinch hitting today because Dan is not here with us on Mondays. Randy Carricker with the day off. We have the Brandon Kiley coming in. Hey, BK, how are you doing?
How's it going? It's good to be
bright
here.
and early this morning.
I woke up at 5 a.m. today and said, I don't know how you guys do this on a day in, day out basis. It doesn't make sense to me, but it's good to be here. I appreciate you guys having me in.
5 a.m. this morning, and you're going to have a long day today. Were you a little just like, I need more coffee than usual?
No. Once I'm up, I'm fine. It's the getting up that is the issue. It's the getting out of bed and being like, all right, I can do this. We can get out of bed. I didn't have to get baby boy up this morning, so you guys got me out of those duties as a parent this morning. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, it's not all bad. It's good to be here with you guys. I appreciate it.
Well, we are very excited for you to come in today, and you probably are even more excited because last night the Cardinals were able to pick up a win against the Phillies.
You love to see it.
No claps for that one. Okay, now look, I was realistic going into this weekend. I said as long as they didn't get swept by the Phillies, I'd be fine. So the fact that they're able to come away with one game, and as we wake up this morning, they actually are in a playoff spot. How do we feel about that?
I feel like it is a sign of the times. If this was 2-3 years ago, you're not in a playoff spot right now because you wouldn't have had the expanded postseason. But given what baseball decided to do with their expanded playoffs, we knew that this was going to happen eventually. Now, if you look in the American League right now, it is going exactly as the league had intended. You've got the Minnesota Twins in the third wild card spot in the American League, and they're at 33-26. They're an objectively good baseball team. In the National League, however, the Cardinals have the final wild card spot, and they're not an objectively good baseball team. They're the most mediocre of all of the teams in the league right now, and you look at what's behind them, the Giants aren't very good. They lack star power, and Blake Snell, it looks like, is going to be placed on the injured list. The Cubs are the bizarro Cardinals, where they start out great, and now they have gone off of the cliff. They have no offense to speak of right now whatsoever.
And they spent all that money on Craig Counsell.
Yeah, the Nationals are fine. The Diamondbacks are having a weird year after going to the World Series a year ago. Like, it's a bunch of meh in the middle right now in the National League. And I think this was always the likely end point when they added that third wild card. So it shouldn't be shocking to anybody. It is surprising, though, given the fact that we watch this team every single day, and it does not feel like, as of today, they should be in the playoffs, but that's exactly where they're at.
Yeah, and they currently hold the third wild card spot right now. And so what do we think? Do we think it's a good thing for, whether it's the Cardinals or anybody else, is it a good thing for a sub-500 team to be in the playoffs?
No. Does anybody think that that's a good... Brooke, do you?
You know, the parody, you never know what happens. Everybody likes a good underdog story, right?
But fans don't like this. I don't think there's any fan that wakes up today and says to themselves, it's good for me that my team can strive for mediocrity and just get in. Like, no, nobody feels that way. They want their team to try to be the Braves, try to be the team we just saw this weekend with the Phillies. And the incentive, if you're a general manager or, more importantly, an owner, to go out there and spend the way that those teams do just isn't there when you can watch what the Diamondbacks did a year ago, or watch what the Cardinals were in 2011, or the Royals were in 2014, the Nationals were in 2019, like Braves 2021. You can see these teams that just get in and give yourself a chance. It's hard for me as an owner to say, okay, well, then I'm going to go give Bryce Harper $300 million because I can just get in. I can skate by, and hopefully I'll find a way into the playoffs, and then hopefully we get hot at the right time. I think that's what the model is for a lot of these organizations right now. And if you see a team get in with 80, 81, 82 wins this year, it's just going to be even more of a reason as to why those owners are trying to get to the middle.
And the thing is that especially this weekend is where you saw a clear difference between two organizations. That was my big takeaway. The Phillies are exactly as advertised. That is a really, really good team that is very talented with a lot of depth. They have the starting rotation. They have everything that you can want. A good bullpen, a lot of talent, obviously, offensively. Now, I do understand that we didn't have Brendan Donovan, and we don't have Lars Newbar, so you are missing those pieces. You could also add Wilson Contreras to that discussion. But outside of that, didn't you notice that there was a big difference between the two currently right now?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but going into the weekend, I felt like you had one team that was on the field that was a playoff contender. That's the Cardinals. And you had another team on the field that is a championship contender, and that's the Phillies. And I think you could feel that over the weekend, whether it was just via the crowd, which was awesome in Philadelphia this weekend, or the lineup that as I'm watching as a Cardinals fan sitting at home, I'm thinking to myself, man, navigating this thing is really difficult. And that's without Trey Turner, who's one of the best players in Major League Baseball. And then you see the starters that they throw out there, and more importantly, yesterday, the relievers that you have to go out there and try to hit. It's just a really hard team to match up against. And when you look at the Cardinals from the opposing team's perspective, it doesn't feel that way all the time, especially when you're without Nootbaar, you're without Brendan Donovan, you're without Wilson Contreras right now. It's not as hard to navigate through this lineup on a night in, night out basis. So to me, I think what you saw over the weekend was just a manifestation of what we all knew these teams to be. One of them's a championship contender. The other is a playoff hopeful. And you saw what that looks like in this 3-game set.
And it looks like the team that you expected with the Cardinals on the other side. A 500 team. And that's exactly what they are. I know that they're right below it currently right now. But I think the other big takeaway is the defensive miscues that we saw, which led to some unearned runs. It was a pretty good start from Lance Lynn, but the errors were the biggest thing for me. I don't understand how we went from how clean this team was defensively to begin the season to what we've seen here lately.
Yeah, it's a reminder of the margin for error that the team had whenever they were hitting home runs left and right. When they were going through that stretch of 12-3 baseball, they were committing errors at a rate unlike any other team in Major League Baseball. So they were playing bad defense and getting away with it because the offense was making up for it. Unfortunately, when you score 2 runs on Friday and 1 run on Saturday, you're not able to make up for that. Yesterday, yeah, you had the errors there, but you find a way to scratch across 5 runs, and that's enough for you to come away with a win. So it really does all come back to this team is constructed in a way where they need the offense to be firing on all cylinders. And if it is, you can get away with this stuff that's happening defensively, which is weird, especially when it's Arenado and Masyn Winn that are committing a lot of the errors currently. But if you don't have the offense going, none of the rest of it matters.
And luckily, Nolan Gorman was going. That's the biggest thing. He was able to attack early on, and then he was the reason they were able to win the game 5-4 in the 10th inning with his RBI. And so that is a positive. I think another positive is the bullpen, because that was a very sticky situation with Lance Lynn in there. And we talked about what happened there with the 2 errors that kind of led to everything unraveling. But Matthew Liberatore, him being back in the bullpen, seeing that in that moment yesterday, I was like, this is where he needs to be.
I was a little surprised they didn't go longer with him. I don't know if you guys felt that way at all. He only had, I think it was 12 pitches yesterday, and I know that they had a stretch of righties that were going in the next inning, but I wanted to see him get a little bit more length there. But either way, it was nice to be able to see him come into that spot. 2 on, nobody out, finds a way to navigate through that. Fernandez works through a little bit of traffic there as well. And then you get to the back end, guys. When you have Libby coming out of the pen, he's a weapon for you, especially against a lineup like that where most of their best hitters are left-handed. When you had that guy in the rotation, it eliminates somebody that you can go to in the middle inning. So they need that. They missed that, and it was good to see him back in that role yesterday.
And then Jojo Romero is just absolutely filthy what he's able to do. And Ryan Helsley with his 19th save, which now leads all of Major League Baseball right now. So I think if you're looking at the good, I would once again say the bullpen. Now, I thought this is really interesting because your teammate on your show, Tanner Hendrickson, he had this where he had the good, which was the bullpen we discussed, and incomplete the offense, which we touched on. The bad, he pointed out the rotation, and he was pointing to some numbers specifically in this series.
I didn't feel that way. I
didn't feel like
with him
that?
on this.
Okay, well, let me give you what he had on there. So 15 innings pitched, 11 runs, 7 earned runs, 4 walks, 19 strikeouts, 4.20 ERA.
I felt like they were fine this weekend. I felt like you went up against a really good lineup. And this is what you expect given the Cardinals starters that they had available to them over the weekend. I thought Michaelis responded pretty well after a rough first inning for him on Friday night. Lynn, that's what you expect. Like, he's going to be in and out of traffic all day long, and it's just a matter of can he get out of it. And yesterday, you get to the 5th inning, and he's not able to get out of it. I thought the one that was a little weird to me was Sonny Gray. And I don't know if you guys feel this way, but the last 4 or 5 starts have just been kind of weird.
They have been.
With Sonny, and I am Sonny Gray's biggest fan. You will not hear.
Hey, I am too. I defend him all the time. I'm a big Sonny Gray fan.
Every penny was worth it. He's been really good for you so far this year. The drawback to having Sonny Gray as your number one is he's not a guy that consistently gives you 6+ innings. He gets a lot of strikeouts. He gets into deep counts at times, and he's a really good starting pitcher. But there will be stretches over the course of the season where you have this. And when you have this as a part of the Sonny Gray experience, I think it once again reemphasized this is why you need a strong number 2 with Sonny Gray as your number 1 starter. I don't think that he can't be a number 1. I think you need a really good number 2 with him, and I don't think the Cardinals have that right now. So when you go from Sonny on Saturday to Lance Lynn yesterday, it just leaves you wanting a little bit more. So that was my biggest takeaway. I didn't think the starting rotation was bad over the weekend by any stretch. I thought it was just a weird Sonny Gray start.
And also defensively, I think that that's something that adds to it as well. And to your point, I think that's the thing that a lot of people felt like this offseason. People were very happy, I believe, about the Sonny Gray signing. I know that Randy, he has his comments about that. But to be fair, BK, I listened to him, and I think some people misunderstood some of the stuff that he was saying because he agreed that they needed another frontline starter. Sonny Gray's great, but you needed another addition to the front end of your starting rotation, and I think we're starting to see that now. Now, I'm just guessing here, but do you think that the Cardinals were hoping that maybe Zach Thompson could have emerged as one of those other frontline starter options or somebody else?
I don't think maybe Miles Michaelis, I think, was the bet that they were placing, was that he would get back to what he was 2 years ago as opposed to the guy that we saw a year ago. Zach Thompson, that would be such a significant step for him to take to become a frontline starter. I think they were hoping for Miles Michaelis or Lance Lynn or Kyle Gibson, one of those 3 to emerge as a legitimate number 2 starter. And honestly, I think they were hoping to just get by to the trade deadline. I think that
which is what they usually do, to be fair.
Yeah, I think they wanted to construct a rotation, and after talking with Michael Gersh on opening day, he basically said, listen, last year we threw out guys that were not ready to be major league starters, and we couldn't do that again this year. So it wasn't so much, we talked so much during the offseason about the innings, right? They need innings eaters. For them, it was about getting start eaters. We need to get guys that can make 30 starts for us this season, so that way we don't have to put guys that aren't ready to be in the major leagues in the major leagues. So I think that's what they were really trying to do, is can we get ourselves to mid-July, be in it, and then hopefully make the move that is able to stabilize the rotation with somebody like a Jordan Montgomery, whoever this year's version of that at the deadline could be. I think that was their hope, just reading between the lines a bit. I don't know that they honestly believed they had a number 2 starter unless Miles Michaelis got back to being the guy that he once was.
Which Miles Michaelis even said last year, he's like, I have a good year and then I have a bad year. And so I'll have a good year this year. But then you worry about the regression and if he would be able to get back to form. I don't think anybody was expecting him to be, exactly how he was after he came back from Japan, but maybe just a wee bit better than last year. And he even said himself, I have one good year, one bad year.
I bought into it. I thought he could have been better than this, but he just hasn't been the guy that I expected him to be this year.
No, and now the Cardinals will head over to the Astros, who actually haven't really been that good as of late. They've kind of been struggling. They're
heating up.
I'll give them credit for that.
Bad timing for the Cardinals to see them.
Well, the Cardinals have had some stretches of good things until they ran into the Phillies, so maybe they could build off of that.
Did change anything for you guys?
No.
Do you feel any different today than you did on Friday or the week prior? Rocc, do you feel differently about the team today at all after seeing them against the Phillies over the weekend?
Nah. It is what I expected. I had a feeling just going into the weekend that this was going to be either legging out the Brewers for a weird 84-win division winner, or you're going to try to beat 4 or 5 mediocre teams to that 3rd spot in the wild card. That's what they are. And the big thing for me is that everyone keeps saying, if Mo just came out and said that before the season, like Doug Armstrong did, people would be okay with it. That's a lie. That's not true. If they come out and said, well, with the roster we have now, we're going to build for the future, try to win a World Series, and part of that is being maybe a 3rd wild card this year, people would freak out. There would be pitchforks outside this window the next morning if they said that.
If Mo said it.
And so
they want change.
And they want change, and people in here are like, well, these aren't the Cardinals I remember. And there's just this weird nostalgia-like pit that St. Louis Cardinals fans are in. So that's what they are. No one's happy about it, but that's the reality of the situation. If you win 85 games, it's a good season relative to what you have.
I still have some optimism about this team. I walk in this morning,
people are acting like we're being very negative today, and I don't think we are.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't feel negative about the Cardinals at all this morning.
No.
I feel fine about what you watched over the weekend. the Saturday game kind of sucked, but other than that, you were pretty competitive against what I believe to be the best team in Major League Baseball.
Well, and the fact that they were still able to win after some self-inflicted wounds yesterday, I'm going to give them all the credit in the world. And we talked about the bullpen being a huge thing. I think that it was just very clear, as you mentioned earlier, the clear difference between the two right now. The Phillies, that's a World Series contender right there. That's somebody who can win a championship, in my opinion. With the Cardinals, I think that there's still, and that's what we're touching on with the frontline starter, another one that they could add to their starting rotation. There's still some pieces missing, and you do have some key injuries right now with Lars Nootbaar, Brendan Donovan, and Wilson Contreras.
And that worries me. Like the Newt thing,
he has to stay on the field.
It feels kind of similar to the Matt Carpenter injury, and he was out for, what, six to 8 weeks, something like that? Mm-hmm. If that's the case for Lars Nootbaar, I mean, we're talking about, like, going into the trade deadline, potentially getting him back on the field. That's a really long time without a guy that I know some Cardinals fans, I feel like he's this, like, lightning bolt of discussion for Cardinals fans. You're either really high on Newt or really low on him, and there feels like there's no in between. Nootbaar's a productive major leaguer, a good major league hitter that gets on base at a high clip and he hits from the left side. That's a really valuable thing to have, especially when he's as good as he is defensively for you. So I think missing him is not going to be great for this team, but they need to get Brendan Donovan back out there as soon as humanly possible. You can't have both of those guys out for the foreseeable future.
And we'll continue to discuss that a little bit later on in the show, but just a quick rundown of other big things that happened this week. And we were just giving you some hype music, BK, to really add to your point there about Brendan Donovan. All right, I'm going to the break in a minute, but real quick, we have to talk about the Battlehawks. They secured dome field advantage this weekend. Oh, you see what I did there? And so now they will be facing the Brahmas. That's how you pronounce it correctly. I'm still not used to that. The San Antonio Brahmas. It's a very unique name. Yeah. So they will face them this coming Sunday. And then also in the MLS, Inter Miami and CSC, they have a 3-3 draw was the ending there. We'll discuss that a little bit more later. And over at Worldwide Technology Raceway, Austin Cindric capitalized on teammate Ryan Blaney running out of fuel heading into the white flag. So he won the Enjoy Illinois 300. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the 3 things we love from the weekend. That's coming up on 101 ESPN. Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, BK, and Matthew Rocchio here, and it is time for 3 things that we love from the weekend. BK, why don't you kick us off with your number 3?
Yeah,
Number 3.
My apologies.
Okay, wait. I should have
told me
warned you
beforehand. Hey, we've got this number. It's going to be a sounder. It's going to play before you go. Please be ready for that. And immediately Brooke's like, hey, number 3 began. I'm like, yes, let's do this.
And it kind of surprises you a little bit. If you weren't awake already, then that's going to wake you up.
I'm ready to go. All right. My number 3 is about the NHL getting its dream scenario. I don't think they could have asked for anything more with the Stanley Cup final, Brooke. I get so frustrated, and your guy Randy Carricker is somebody that peddles this, and I respect him and I appreciate it. However, man, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl are not the reasons why the Edmonton Oilers have failed to emerge victorious from the Western Conference in the past. And I'm glad that finally we can put this to bed. They're 2 of the greatest players of this generation of hockey players, and they've been teammates in 2015. Never once have they been to the Stanley Cup final until last night. They get the win against Dallas. They are headed to the final to play against the Florida Panthers. You've got star power all over the ice in this series. And Brooke, one of the things that I love, we can now, I think, maybe, possibly, look at the Edmonton Oilers, look at what Vegas was able to do and say, maybe you can win with stars making big money on your cap sheet. I think that's a good thing for fans. I think it's a good thing for the NHL. We need more of this, not less of it. I'm glad to see the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup final.
How do you think that Canada feels right now? That finally they're getting this situation as well?
Good. I don't know that they love that it's Edmonton.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I think they want it to be somebody else, of course. But still at the same time, I mean, Connor McDavid, just watching him last night, that first goal that he got, that was absolutely insane.
He's amazing. He's absolutely incredible. And the fact that they're able to make it to the final with the goaltending that they've had, it's a minor miracle. It reminds me of what Colorado was able to do a couple of years ago, where it didn't matter who was in net. They had such unbelievable skaters that they were going to find a way to make it through the Western Conference. I also think, I know people told me that I was wrong on this prior to the start of the playoffs. I think it's been proven correct. I think it was just a down year in the West as well, and that helped their path a little bit to get to the final.
And I'm excited to see the Panthers, obviously, with Matthew Tkachuk. Well, my number 3 is going to be... Oh, I wanted the sounder too. Fine. Okay, it's okay.
She's so used to being in your spot and getting the sounder for all of hers, and she's like,
and you know what?
It loses some panache.
But you know what, BK? I also still get surprised by it every single time as well, because it's just kind of like a big voice. Anyways, number 3 for me is the Cardinals actually getting a win against the Phillies this weekend, because we talked about the self-inflicted wounds in that game. And look, I know that we shouldn't be exactly just cheering for getting just 1 game out of the 3-game series, but still, I thought that was a pretty big feat, considering that there's some things that went really wrong that the Cardinals did in that game, and they still found a way to win. So I take that away as a positive.
Yeah, I think overall it was like a ho-hum weekend for the Cardinals. Is pretty much what I expected. I liked the way that they were able to win yesterday. I was impressed by the way that they won that game, especially when you don't get a lot of length out of your starter to go to the bullpen arms that they had. I like to see it in that for them. All right, my number 2.
Number 2.
There we go.
We rocked it. I'm going to throw to my audio here, Rocc. I think Dak Prescott is going to be remembered as this generation's Phillip Rivers. And my hope is that he's going to be able to get the Super Bowl that Rivers never got. Here's CJ Stroud on a podcast over the weekend listing his top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. Listen for that name in particular.
Mahomes, Lamar, myself, Dak, and then Hurts. Dak, that boy. Y'all not gonna say that because he ain't won the big one.
You said Matt.
Well, you gonna put Dak Prescott in there?
Dak is one of the most accurate quarterbacks.
Y'all gotta see them this year.
So that was CJ Stroud, Houston Texans quarterback, saying Dak Prescott, this is a little bit of a caveat. Based on last season, he said he would have Joe Burrow in his top 5, but Joe Burrow was hurt all of last year.
Like,
so
there's
before
some
we
people
get the
missing
text,
here.
it's based upon last season. I think Dak Prescott is criminally underrated. And I think part of why that is the case is because he is the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. And that has its perks. It also comes with its drawbacks. Some of that is because the Cowboys are notoriously losers in the postseason.
You don't say.
If Dak has a good year this year and decides, I don't want to come back to the Cowboys, I'm going to the market, he can choose to do so. He cannot be franchise tagged. I hope that he goes to a team that surrounds him with the correct supporting cast and puts a good coaching staff in place for him to have success. Maybe the Miami Dolphins, for example. And I hope he goes on to have a ton of success elsewhere. I think Dak Prescott, I hope he's not this generation's Phillip Rivers, but I fear that he may become that.
Well, that was going to be my follow-up question to what you were saying is, did you think he was going to accomplish this with the Dallas Cowboys? And I don't think that he can.
I think he has so much that he has to overcome. He's got an owner that does a press conference after every home game. He's got a team that right now has to deal with his cap hit because his owner won't give him the contract that I believe that he's deserving of. He's got a wide receiver that's on a contract here, a defensive end that's going to be one of the highest paid in the NFL. There's just a lot that they have to overcome. And oh, by the way, their defensive coordinator was amazing. He's now gone. Their head coach is a bumbling idiot, and he's still there. I don't feel great about the situation with the Cowboys.
Yeah, no, none whatsoever. So number 2 for me is going to be that it was a great weekend in St. Louis and even over in Illinois when you had the Enjoy Illinois 300. A lot of fans, almost a sold-out crowd from what I'm told, and it was just a fun weekend. You've had NASCAR going on. We talked about that Cindric was able to win in kind of a dramatic fashion there towards the end, but also all the music that you had come to town as well. So a great fanfare. You had Ludacris, you had T-Pain, you had Riley Green, who is a country music star, and you had a new country music star, and Adam Wainwright also performing this weekend too. So anytime we have big events like that, and they always do a wonderful job over at Worldwide Technology Raceway, it's just a good thing to have.
My number 3.
Number 1.
So
We're getting so close here, BK.
It's right there. When we do this next week, I'm going to be great at it, I promise. I have something as a follow-up to what you were mentioning about Matthew Liberatore.
Okay.
My number 1 thing from the weekend for the Cardinals was the value of him in the bullpen. He recorded 4 outs on Friday, 7th, 8th inning, down 4-2. Schwarber strikeout, Real Muto strikeout, Harper strikeout, and then Bohm with the flyout. He recorded another 3 outs on Sunday, 5th inning, tied 5-5, 2 on, no outs, gets through a crucial situation. You needed a guy like Liberatore in that spot because you had Harper and Marsh both due up, both left-handed hitters. You needed a lefty in that spot. Harper strikeout, Marsh strikeout, Bohm flyout, boom, end of the inning. You're able to keep that thing with a tie game. I love what we saw from Matthew Liberatore out of the weekend as a weapon out of the bullpen. That is something that this team has desperately been missing. It is great to see him back in a role that suits him. He may be a starter down the line, but for right now, he is a weapon for them out of the pen. Good to see Matthew Liberatore back into the bullpen.
And it's very clear that he's a lot more aggressive coming out of the bullpen. So I do somewhat understand the Cardinals wanting to see if that could transfer over in a starter role, but I just feel like the way that the things have gone this season, that there wasn't really time to try that out in this moment during the course of the season.
What's your number 1, Brooke?
My number 1, you might be surprised by this, the Battlehawks beating the San Antonio Brahmas. Okay, come on. Everybody else clap here. This is a big deal.
Football in St. Louis
Thank
for the
you.
first time
So
in 20 years.
that's my number 1 thing is that the Battlehawks will now host a professional football playoff game in St. Louis for the first time in 2 decades. 2004 was the last time when they faced the Panthers and lost in overtime. So this is just such a huge thing for St. Louis, and tickets are on sale right now, by the way. And so I'm really hoping that we can fill the dome, pack the dome this coming weekend. Sunday, they will face San Antonio again. So that is my number 1 thing from this weekend.
Rocc, you were at the game over the weekend, right?
Yeah, it was electric.
What was it like?
Oh my God, it was honestly it was insane to like be in there again and watch a team win a football game. And I mean the fact that it came down to the last play to kind of like lock it in, and so you got those like last play moments, like I haven't felt that in well over a decade. That was pretty special. It was loud as hell. I can't wait for the playoff games because I think there's going to be a ton of people in there next weekend. And if they win that game and they're playing for a championship, I mean, all bets are off on how many people are in there.
When I first saw that this was going to be back, I was like, it's going to have the same buzz that it had the first time around. Like, is it going to be able to capture the imagination of St. Louis the way that it did when everything was so fresh with Kroenke taking the Rams to L.A. and there was a lot of bleep you mentality when people were at the stadium. Like,
it's still there.
Watch this NFL. It's very much still there. St. Louis is more than happy to support its own, especially when there is an undertone of, yeah, you wronged us and look what you're missing out on now. I have been highly impressed by the crowds that are out there at the Battle Dome, and it's a really impressive job by them to be able to clinch home field advantage. Anthony Becht, by the way, going to be joining us, the head coach of your Battlehawks, at 9:30 this morning.
I will say this. I have tailgated for more Battlehawks games in the 3 years they've been here than I did in the first 18 years of my life when the Rams were here.
I think something we underrate is just the value of fun.
Yes,
It is.
And
100%.
The Battlehawks are just fun.
And it's affordable. You can
vibe.
still get tickets for a really good price. That's BK, Rockio, and I'm Broke. Coming up next, we're going to discuss, it was very apparent that this weekend that the team was missing Lars Newbar, and they were also missing Brendan Donovan. But what's going on with Dylan Carlson? We'll discuss that next, coming up here on 101 ESPN.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals take just one of three from the Phillies. They will start a series against the Astros tonight. 7-10 first pitch. It'll be Kyle Gibson on the mound for the Cardinals. Gibby for the season, 4-2 with a 3.60 ERA. He faces off against the righty for the Astros, Justin Verlander. Verlander on the season, 3-2 with a 3.26 ERA. Over the weekend in the MLS, St. Louis City SC ties Messi and Inter Miami 3-all. And in the UFL, the Battlehawks just survived with a 13-12 6-12 win over the Brahmas, and that clinches them home field advantage throughout the UFL playoffs. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
In the air, deep out to left. Get out the tape measure. That baby's gone. First home run at AAA for Jordan Walker. Huey's home run. Pumped up around third base.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke BK and Matthew Rocchio here. So a lot of things going on this weekend. As you just heard there, Jordan Walker with a home run finally in the minors this weekend. I think everybody's been waiting for something like that. And I think that the Cardinals are waiting for something like that because right now there's a lot of things going on. We know that there's injuries. Brendan Donovan dealing with neck stiffness. Now, I thought it was something that was just going to be a one-day thing. But obviously, it's not a one-day thing, and this could possibly be a bigger issue, something to watch for right now. And then, as we know, Lars Nootbaar dealing with an injury. And then Dylan Carlson, this really paves the way for a huge opportunity for him to really take advantage of. Once again, some key injuries opening up an opportunity for him to maybe take over that role, take back that role, but it's just not really exactly panning out for him.
It's his last chance. I get labeled as a Dylan Carlson hater, and some of that I suppose is fair. I don't hate the guy at all. I thought Dylan Carlson was a really good player in his rookie season. I thought an all-around guy that you could count on for average, got on base, hit for a little bit of power, switch hitter, good defensively in the corner. I don't think he's a center fielder, and I don't know what's happened since his rookie year. Some of it's injury-related for sure. Some of it is probably confidence-related. We were talking about that off of the air, Brooke, before this segment. I don't really understand this because over the past 3 seasons, he hits 235, 220, and now he's batting 133 this year, guys. And sure, some of that might be opportunity. Guys, 2 years ago, he played in 128 games, and most of the games that he missed were due to injury. It wasn't them being like in, out of the lineup the way that it was early on in Randall Grichuk's career or in Colton Wong's career. He started now 5 of the last 6 games, as he should have, because you've been without Brendan Donovan and Lars Nootbaar over the weekend, and Lars Nootbaar before that was hurt. So he's getting the opportunities that people have asked for. Now it's about him going out there and taking advantage of those chances, because you just heard that clip. Jordan Walker is not like heating up down in the minor leagues, but he's doing a little better. It sounds like the process is better, even if the results aren't necessarily showing it to a great degree. If Carlson over the next couple of weeks does not take this job and run with it, I don't know how many more opportunities will be there for him. Eventually, he will be passed by other guys on the depth chart. And that's not something I'm hoping for, but at this point in his career, you only have so many opportunities for the coaching staff to be like, yeah, this guy can be a starting caliber player, before eventually they're just like, he's not a starter. And he needs to be in a 4th outfielder role where he's just coming in late for a defensive replacement.
Well, and it will always be a pain point, I think, for everyone, including Cardinals fans here, because remember, Dylan Carlson was cold dead hands. And so that quote is just stuck into your mind. And then you see the regression from him. I think injuries definitely played a huge role in this. But now just kind of looking, it feels like the confidence isn't there. Do you think that also him staying with switch hitting was a part of this? Because we know some of his struggles that he has had, especially against struggles from the left side versus right-handed pitchers. I mean, was switch hitting, staying with that, was that another part of this?
I don't know if it was... I don't know if it's why he has struggled, but like his lack of success against right-handed pitching has been a huge problem for him. And you just... 75% of the pitchers that you see in Major League Baseball are right-handed.
Exactly.
So if you can't hit that side of the plate, like he is the bizarro Jock Peterson, right? Jock Peterson only hits right-handed pitching.
Yeah.
Which is fine because that means 3 out of every 4 days you can be in the lineup and do a really good job against that handedness of pitcher. Carlson's the opposite, where it's 1 out of every 4 days you feel pretty good about him going up against a lefty. And if you can't hit right-handed pitching, whether it's because of the switch hitting, because of his lack of confidence, because of the injuries, whatever the explanation, you just can't be a major league starting player. And so I feel for the guy because you can see him going through it at the plate and you can kind of feel it. But I don't think it's because he's stuck with switch hitting. I think it's just because he hasn't found that success. I did find it interesting yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this. John Denton tweeted out a video before the game of him taking batting practice, and it was before a game against a right-handed pitcher that he was hitting right-handed. And so I do wonder if they're in the process right now of kind of making a switch with him, similar to what they did with Edman, where it will not be against every right-handed pitcher, but against certain profiles of pitcher. This is something Edman did. He will go out there and be a right-handed hitter against a right-handed pitcher. Will not be every time, but sometimes against a certain profile. If he feels like he can get to an inside pitch, for example, a little better against that guy, he'll potentially hit right-handed. I think that's an interesting tweak that they might be able to make with him.
I just think that he should be. He should be hitting from the right side permanently at this point, because they have to figure out something that works with him. But I just worry about with the injuries, the way that things happen. I mean, even look at what happened with him the start of the season. Now, that was a completely freak accident. Things were going well for him, and then you had that situation with Jordan Walker, and then coming back from it, it just doesn't look like the confidence is fully there. And time is running out. This is your opportunity. Guys have to step up. And we're talking about the team right now where they currently are in a playoff spot despite being under 500. But at the same time, you have to figure out this whole outfield situation. And with Lars Nootbaar, we talked about it. I know that some people, it's a very polarizing subject with Lars Nootbaar. Believe me, I already got some texts this morning that said, Lars Nootbaar, Brooke, your guy, this and that, because BK, as you know, I was the president and CEO of the Nutty Neuters of Newt Nation. Yeah, but I've also been very fair in the fact that at the same time, he has to stay healthy. And that's the big thing with him, is that he has to stay healthy. And this is a chance for Dylan Carlson to really step up. I think Michael Ciani was a big surprise for the outfield this season. I wasn't expecting him to actually somewhat solidify a role, and he's staying in that job right now because Dylan Carlson really isn't doing anything where you would be like, okay, I'm going to give you the full-time job in that situation. And it also
shows Ciani's success there, like him being able to take on that role. It shows that the bar is so incredibly low. Have you guys seen Michael Ciani's offensive numbers this year?
They're not great.
They're so bad. But he does all of the little things well. Like, if you need a bunt, a runner over, Ciani's got you. If you need somebody to go out there and just play elite Gold Glove caliber defense in center field, Ciani's got you. You need somebody that can go in and be a pinch runner on any given day. He can do that too. Like, all of the little roles that you need from a team, Michael Ciani is taking those on and running with them, no pun intended. Carlson just never did that.
No.
He never became the guy that you can just be like, he's going to do X, Y, and Z for us. If you ask me right now, like, what is Dylan Carlson's trump card? What is the one thing, like Alec Burleson, the guy puts bat to ball every time. He's at times a free swinger, and that gets him into trouble, but he's putting bat to ball. Michael Ciani, elite level defensive player. Brendan Donovan, elite on base percentage. What is the one thing that I can put my finger on this and say, this is Dylan Carlson's thing? I don't have one for you.
No.
To be able to get him in the lineup on a regular basis, and that's the problem. He was supposed to be a guy that had something, whether it was on base or defense, and I don't think I can point to, I know I can't point to on base, and defensively, I don't think he's been as good this year. There's just nothing that I can point to and be like, that's why he needs to be out there regularly, and he's got to find that. And this next week, 2-week stretch, he's got to find something that keeps him in the lineup on a regular basis while he figures stuff out at the plate.
Because Lars Nootbaar, too, we talked about the injury. It's going to take a little while. So this is Dylan Carlson's chance. But as we mentioned earlier in the show, Jordan Walker with a home run this weekend in the minors. And I know that's something that the Cardinals like to see. We talk about that exit velo, launch angle, all that different kind of stuff. And finally, he was able to get a home run. So how long do you think the leashes, this opportunity is for Dylan Carlson before, I assume, they can send him down to the minors or whatever happens with Carlson at this point?
He's still got options. I'm guessing they would keep him just for the ability to have that extra outfielder, but I would say probably 2 weeks. I would think something like that. The thing for him is eventually it'll become a decision of him versus Matt Carpenter or Jose Fermin in the lineup. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy that that's where we've arrived, but that's going to be the case because you've got Ciani, Donovan, and Burleson that can be your outfield if you need to on any given day, especially against right-handed pitching. And then you probably go Carpenter as your DH on those days. Well, against lefties, you're going to get Carlson those opportunities. Can he force his way in there against righties? The way to do so is for them to believe Carlson's a better option for us against this right-handed pitcher than Matt Carpenter. and the defensive value that he adds over an Alec Burleson, for example, where we can get Burley now at DH, that is your path, Dylan Carlson, to getting everyday opportunities. But I think he's got probably a couple of weeks to be able to get there. And then eventually they're going to look down in the minors and say, is Jordan Walker ready?
Yes.
They're going to get that wandering eye of it's time for us to go bring this prospect that we are so excited about back up to the big league level because he's going to give us a better opportunity than you do, Dylan.
So I think we can all agree. Last chance for Dylan Carlson here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For an everyday role. I think he can stick around as a fourth or fifth outfielder, but not as an everyday player.
Still disappointing, to say the least. Well, coming up next, we have Take It or Leave It. So get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line. Now, you know what we do for this. Yes, I'm doing it. Anyways, so text into the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646, 314-399.
Yo-ho!
Take It or Leave It is coming up next.
don't send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Welcome back to the opening drive. It is time for Take It or Leave It. Get your text sent to the Air Comfort Service text line. That is 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. I'm looking at you, BK.
I'm sorry. I can't bring myself to do it. I can't.
Oh,
It's like,
come on. Dan's off today, and so I'm getting another version of Dan with the yo-ho.
No. I will go along with all of your bits. Like I'm here for you guys. I just can't bring myself to do this one. This is the one that I can't do it.
Itty bitty one.
No, I respect it.
There's no Austrian,
I
no
love
Swedish,
this for you guys.
no Swiss
I love
in
this
you,
for you.
no yodeling background in the Kylie family.
No,
Darn.
we are full Italian, and this is all I got for you.
Oh my
I
gosh.
stand on principles, and this is one of them I cannot go against.
Boo. Anyways, take it or leave it. BK should do that. He should do
leave
the
it.
yo-ho.
Absolutely leave it.
I will take
Leave
it. I'm
it. Stick
sure.
to your guns.
Whatever. Okay, BK, why don't you kick us off there?
All right, so I've got one for you guys. I don't know if you saw the video this weekend. First, of our guy, I'm going to call him our guy, Tommy
Okay.
Pham, getting thrown out at home plate. And then trying to fight William Contreras on the field, being held back. And then afterwards saying the reason that he trains in boxing during the offseason is because he always has to be ready in case there's a fight that takes place on the field. As all of that being the backdrop, take it or leave it, you would take Tommy Pham back in a second for the St. Louis Cardinals.
I will take it. Now, I was actually wondering if that could be a possibility this offseason. Of course, they thought their outfield was going to be set in place, and I know that maybe his relationship isn't exactly great with the Cardinals. You know, some things happened towards the end there. Some comments were made, but either way, Tommy Pham, if you follow just recently where he keeps going, there is a difference that he makes with each team that he goes to.
He's a good player, man.
Diamondbacks and the White Sox. He definitely brings that intense energy, I think, is the best way to frame it for Tommy Pham. So I will take it. I think that also, too, because that was going to be mine as well. But I was going to frame it in the way as, no, great minds think alike. That's what I always say. But I was going to frame it in the way of, if Tommy Pham wants to fight you and he says, I won't start it, but I'll finish it, that you believe him.
Oh, absolutely. Have you heard the guy? He's been stabbed. I don't know if you've heard about
Multiple
that.
times. Multiple
I've felt real
times.
pain. I've been stabbed. It's one of the greatest press conference moments in history, and the fact that there was no follow-up question to that answer says everything you need to know about Tommy Pham. He's amazing.
I love him. I love him so much. I want him on the team so bad.
I would
He
take
is
him back here in St.
interesting.
Louis, by the way.
Would he come back, though? is
He
the
would
question.
love to be here.
You think so?
Yeah, he was begging the Cardinals to sign him this offseason.
Yeah.
Do I think that the Cardinals would have him? No chance. No chance in hell. But I think he would help them. I think he would make them a better team.
I think where you were around for that too, for the clubhouse. It was such an interesting time when you had Tommy Pham, Carlos Martinez, Adam Wainwright. I mean, like just the dynamic in that clubhouse. But I think that can also be a good thing. You can't have too many of the same person. Now, if you had too many Tommy Phams,
Are you still talking to the Cardinals organization right now?
Yes,
because
I
they
am.
would disagree.
it was a lot that was happening in that moment.
There was a lot, yeah.
A lot
It
of
was
personalities. What do we have on the text line, Rocc?
I was just going to comment that my favorite thing about Tommy Pham will always be you could walk up to him, ask him a question. In the middle of the question, he'd be like, I have a 364 OBP. Okay, listen, you know how many left fielders who have played this many games this season have a 364 OBP? There's 4 of them, all right? It's me, and then he just have the list. Like, you have this in your head, my guy?
It's a Monroe St. Brown level of petty.
Yes.
Where Monroe
Yes.
St. Brown
Yes.
can name all of the wide receivers that were selected in front of him in the NFL draft. I feel like there comes a certain point in time in your career, if you're a Monroe St. Brown, where you no longer have to recite that. Where it's like, hey, dude, you make $30 million a year. You're good. Like, yeah, you won. The teams were wrong. You ended up being one of the best receivers in your class. I don't think Tommy Pham will ever get there where he is comfortable with his position in Major League Baseball.
This is a per one today. Take it or leave it. Kansas City Chiefs fans are now a lot more terrified during the offseason than they ever are during the season.
Ooh, BK. Curious.
I can speak for last season, in which I was terrified from start to finish because they found new and excruciating ways to lose on the regular.
Yeah, well, new and excruciating ways to get in the news during the offseason there, champ.
Now, to be fair,
What is going on with them this
the
offseason?
kicker said some stuff.
But then there was,
Rasheed did some stuff.
Your backup defensive lineman did some stuff.
I didn't know he was on the roster.
That's fair.
So that guy,
that's fair.
I saw. This is a true story. I saw the news about is it Isaiah Buggs?
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw the news and I was like, oh, okay, not great. And then I saw somewhere else that he's a Chiefs player, and I was like, wait, what? We're back in the news again for that? Yeah, no, not what you want. The backup offensive lineman getting caught with weed. Whatever.
That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Go 10 minutes across the state line. It'd be like gambling in the state of Missouri. It's like, dude, just can you go across the river?
Yeah.
Can you just go across the river, please?
No, that'd be too easy.
Just play hopscotch with the line. See what happens. Take it or leave it. Lars Nootbaar and Dylan Carlson should be traded, and you can just roll with Tommy Edman as your fourth outfielder.
Well, we have to get Tommy Edman back first. That's a big key part there. When will he return? We were discussing that earlier during one of the breaks. Like, I still don't understand the timeline.
He took BP from the left side, so that's.
But that also happened soon. I mean, not too long ago, and then there was another setback. So.
I'll leave this because who was it that they're trading? Lars Nootbaar and Dylan Carlson?
Yep, Nootbaar and Carlson.
Yeah, I think you need the left-handed bat. I think what we've seen is that left-handed bats are highly important, not just in the regular season, but in the playoffs. And I know people are down on Lars Nootbaar. The injuries are a problem. You need that guy's bat.
Yeah.
If you're going to get to the playoffs and you're going to have any success in the postseason, I think he's a really important player.
Especially when you have just your two big bats are just if they are hitting an Arenado and Goldie or righties, just having like being able to sprinkle in lefties all around him is just it's deadly.
And Edman has the same issues against righties.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave it. But I think Dylan Carlson. Say you do trade him, what would you get in return at this moment?
Bag of balls.
Not much.
Yeah.
You're trading him at his low point, so there's just not really a reason to do it right now.
Take it or leave it. Jesus Luxardo is the move for the Cardinals at the deadline.
Take it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I keep seeing, of course, a lot of people talking about that. At this point, why not?
Because of the ask. Like,
what do you think the ask would be?
A lot. Because he's the type of pitcher that every team in Major League Baseball can acquire. And what I mean by that is he doesn't make a lot of money and he's got term left. Mm-hmm. So you're under club control for another couple of seasons. And if you're any team, whether you're the Royals, the Twins, the Cardinals, or the Yankees, like that's the exact kind of guy that you want to be able to bring into your clubhouse. And also, he's a really good pitcher. So, I mean, you're talking about some of your top prospects in your system, or potentially, depending on what the Marlins want, guys from your major league roster. So it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot.
I'll take it that I would like for it to happen. But then again, we also know that a lot of other teams, there's been some injuries. So the Cardinals aren't going to be the only one trying to go after him.
Take it or leave it. Caitlin Clark has a deadly three-point shot and millions of fans, so the WNBA players need to take the hit off her if they want to stay relevant.
Whoa, there's a lot to unpack there to stay relevant. Okay, well, we are going to be discussing this a little bit later on at 9:15 because I definitely have some big thoughts on this. I don't think it's a great look what's going on right now. I think the WNBA does have to say something because I think at this point it's very clear that some of the other players from other teams are showing that they are targeting her specifically, and there is some jealousy going on there. I wouldn't even say some. I think that it's very clear that there's a hatred there. Now, she's not the only kind of star coming into those situations, rookies, where, of course, there's a lot of hype, and then the rest of the league's like, wait a minute. What about us? Like, we also have been here this whole time. But at the same time, I think it's such a bad look because you know you're getting a lot more eyes on the WNBA and people are tuning in and saying that. And then there's no response from the WNBA.
I kind of think this is good for the league in a roundabout way. Not because it's good to see Caitlin Clark getting pushed around, but, man, we're talking about it. ESPN's talking about it. Like, there are more eyes, ears, interest in the WNBA than ever have been before. A lot of that is because of Caitlin Clark, the women's college game. I was curious if this would be the case, Brooke. I didn't know if it would for sure or not. The college game had a moment in a meaningful way this past season because of the stars that existed, Caitlin Clark being number one on that list. I didn't know how that would translate to the WNBA, what the interest level would be once you get to the pro league. We see this sometimes with other sports where guys will go from college, for example, college basketball, get to the NBA, put up lesser numbers, and then just kind of fall to the wayside because the stars already exist. Would that still happen for the WNBA? I think this is a storyline that the league doesn't necessarily want to squash. And so when you see it, when you see these teams having a very clear approach to how they want to kind of push, no pun intended, Caitlin Clark off of her spots, it makes a lot of sense. It seems to kind of be working, and there's no pushback from Indiana. And if there's not going to be pushback from Indiana, there's no reason for these teams to stop. It kind of reminds me of teams and their approach with, like, Tyreek Hill, for example. If you're going up against speed in the NFL, what's the best way to tamp that down? Get physical with them.
Yeah.
The best way to keep Caitlin Clark uncomfortable is to get really physical with her. I do think it's crossed the line, and it's gone into a place that's uncomfortable for everybody, but I don't know necessarily big picture if it's a bad thing for the league.
Yeah.
Let's get one more quick one here.
Okay.
Take it or leave it. If the Cardinals wait until the deadline to fix the rotation, it will be too late.
Say that again?
If the Cardinals wait until the deadline to fix the rotation, it will be too late. He says added number 2. I argue that I changed it a little bit because I think if you stabilize the 4-5 spot, I think it could also really help.
I'll leave it because I think you can get by with what you have. But that's because of what the National League is right now. If the National League was better, if I thought there was a team that could really go on a run for the number 3 wildcard spot, I would take this. Let me put this a different way. If the Cardinals were in the American League, I would take this because I think they would get too far behind and have too much ground to make up to consider themselves to be buyers at the deadline. But because they're in the National League and the National League stinks this year, I'll leave it.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to leave it as well just because of the fact of with Andre Palante, that was a great start for him. I'm not expecting that to continue, but at the same time, I think it's enough to get you by. And Zach Thompson looking a little bit better in the minors, so that's another fresh arm option, which is what they said when they called up Palante, is that it's a fresh arm for them. And having Liberatore, as we talked about, back in your bullpen, the bullpen is a big key part of this. I mean, look at what Romero looked like this weekend off of 6 days rest. The fact that you were able to give him some resting time there, I think that was a huge thing, and that's a big point. Well, that's BK, I'm Brooke, and that was Rocc Roll. Coming up next, this weekend, we saw the difference between a championship versus a playoff contender. Did this weekend change your perspective on the Cardinals? We'll discuss that next here on 101 ESPN.
stories. This is Fresh Take.
Presented by Lindenwood University. Real experience, real success.
Next pitch, that ball is lifted high, deep. Castellanos, corner, track, watching, and that ball is gone. He's going. This ball is driven to right. Forget it. Alec Burleson, no doubt about it, off the facing of the second deck. And the second shot given up by Walker is 4-2 Cardinals. This one is into right field. It's going to bring in the go-ahead run. What a job by Nolan Gorman.
Nolan Gorman helping the Cardinals win 5-4 last night. Now, there were some self-inflicted wounds in the game, but still, they were able to take away one game in the 3-game series against the Phillies, who, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but that's a really freaking good team over there, the Phillies are. And maybe I think that was my big takeaway this weekend. Now, was I expecting the Cardinals to just go in and sweep or maybe even win a series against the Phillies? No.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I went in saying, okay, just don't get swept this weekend. I think that that's a positive, and I think that shows progression because we see what the Phillies are able to do. I mean, that is a complete team that they pretty much have on the other side over there, and they're really good. So do you believe this weekend that we saw the difference, which as we wake up right now, the Cardinals are actually in a playoff spot. They hold the third wild card spot, which I know sounds crazy because they are right below 500, but that is the truth of the matter right now if the season ended today, which of course it doesn't. But at the same time, they are considered a playoff team at this moment. Do you feel like we saw the difference between a championship team versus a playoff contender?
Yeah, I do. I think that was on full display over the weekend. And 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. I'd be curious how the text line feels about this. I feel like for most fans, you probably feel the same way today as you felt on Friday going into the weekend about the Cardinals. Now, that can be good or bad. If you went into the weekend feeling like, hey, everybody's getting out over their skis, they had a good 3-week stretch, this team is still what they were for the first month and a half of the season. The 3 weeks does not make me forget the first 6 weeks. Totally fair. You should still feel that way today. If you went into the weekend kind of like me saying, okay, we saw what this team can be for a 3-week stretch where you won 12 of 15 games and then you went up against Philadelphia. You were competitive on Friday. You won on Sunday. And then, yeah, you got beat on Saturday. I feel still some optimism about the Cardinals today. Now, I want to be clear on what that optimism is for, though, because I think it sometimes gets lost in translation. I'm not telling you that the Cardinals are a great team because they're not. I'm not trying to gaslight anybody to suggest that they're something that they cannot be. They're not the Phillies. The Phillies are a championship contender from day one.
Yes.
The Cardinals aren't constructed that way. The Cardinals are a team, as currently constructed, that is hoping to get into the postseason. And I think right now, when you look at the teams that are around them, I think they're the best of those teams that can get that third wild card right now. That is where my optimism lies, is that they are not a bad team, which is what they were for the first 6 weeks of the season. So that's where I stand on them today. I still think they're solid enough to sneak into a playoff spot. I think that speaks to the lack of really good teams in the National League. But I think some over the weekend were like, look, you went up against a good team and now you got slapped back down. Brooke, here's what teams have done that are kind of around the Cardinals right now in that wild card race against teams that are above 500 this season. Cardinals are 11-15 against winning clubs. Teams behind them. The Giants are 8-18. The Cubs 12-16. Nationals 12-18. And the Diamondbacks 7-14. All of these teams are bad against the winning clubs in the National League. There's just nobody that's really separating themselves. So I feel the same way today that I did on Friday, which is to say, I think they're the best team for that third wild card right now.
And it feels like it's a difference between the haves and have-nots. I agree with you. And it feels like the formula the Cardinals have done for the most recent seasons is do enough to get you to the trade deadline, add some pieces there that can hopefully push you into the playoffs. Doesn't that feel like that's a formula? And that's the way that this team is currently constructed, is to hopefully get you to the trade deadline, and maybe you can add another starter to this rotation. And that's what I think is really missing right now, is they need another frontline starter. They need a number 2 in their starting rotation currently.
BK, so you had the Giants, the Cubs, and the Diamondbacks on that list. The other teams that are kind of in the third wild card race would be the Padres and the Mets. The Mets are obviously catastrophic over the last month, and the Padres are just falling apart at the seams. Like, every player is just going to be on the IL before the end of June.
Put another 2 starters on the IL.
Exactly. So you look at that group of 5 teams, and none of them scare me, even if I am a Cardinal fan, and even if I am being
and the Cardinals don't scare any of those teams either, by the way.
No.
Exactly. It does kind of work both ways, but nonetheless, it does kind of seem like they are solidly in the race for the 3rd wild card, which I'm not too happy with, but it's better than 71 wins.
So we did get this text from the 618. Guys, just getting in is not good enough. I want a juggernaut. It is sad that the media keeps accepting this lowering of the bar.
We're not accepting that. I can tell you right off the bat. We're not. There's no way that I'm saying just because they took away 1 win that all of a sudden I'm saying, oh, everything's fine there, that I'm accepting that. It's the reality of the situation. This is the team, the way that it's constructed currently right now, and it's a 500 team. Now, as you talked about in the National League, it's not that crazy that a sub 500 team could possibly get into the playoffs this year, because you're seeing it across the league right now that there's a realistic chance of that. But I think the bigger question is, after you look at this weekend, say the Cardinals do get into the playoffs, what would their chances look like?
And I think that is something that I took from this weekend as well. We all focus on the rotation. Fair. Justified. They need a number 2 starter. What I saw over the weekend that is a bit concerning, and it does have to do with the injuries, worth noting that your offense has to be better against these clubs. They just have to be better against the quality pitching, and it's really hard to do that. There's a reason why Aaron Nola is great. He's great not just because he shuts down the Cardinals, but because he shuts down basically everybody that he goes up against. But when you go up against Taijuan Walker and you're able to, not for the reasons that you expected, but when Ranger Suarez leaves the game as early as he did, you ended up hitting 168 as a team over the weekend. You had 4 doubles, 4 home runs, and 1 single the entirety of the weekend against the Phillies. You go 1 for 16 with runners in scoring position. The offense has to be able to produce in these kinds of matchups. And I think for a lot of Cardinals fans, if you are somebody, especially like the 618, that says they've got to be better, you guys have to raise the bar, I think part of why that is because it felt like that was a microcosm of what it would look like in a 3-game series if the Cardinals were to make the playoffs. They get in, they go up against a better team, their offense goes quiet like it has the last 5 years in the postseason.
Oh, we've seen it.
And they quietly go into the night, and we go into the offseason with another couple of tweaks to the lineup, a couple of tweaks to the rotation. We go into next year, and we do the same thing over again. I get all of that. But if we're just analyzing, hey, where are the Cardinals at right now and not looking big picture about what this means for the grand scheme of things, they're fine. They're a solid team that probably will make it into the playoffs. I think the problem for a lot of fans is I've heard this for 5 years, guys. I don't want to hear that description of the Cardinals any longer, and I get that.
Exactly, because doesn't it feel like everything hinges on them being able to score 5 runs or more a game in order to be able to secure a win? I think that's the big thing, is that it felt like this team was constructed in that manner, but offensively they're not able to pull that off, especially in the series this past weekend. I mean, we've talked about RISP a lot of different times this season. Now, of course, Nolan Gorman in that situation last night, that was a clutch moment for him. But if you looked at the entirety of the series, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't going on with scoring with runners in scoring position there. And I think that is something that you're continuing to see with the situational hitting. And then also kind of couple that with some of the defensive miscues that we have started to see here as of late. It's just kind of crazy that they were so solid to start the year defensively, and now we're starting to see some uncharacteristic errors happening.
And I can't explain it. I don't know. I would be curious Dan's thoughts on this tomorrow when he's on the show with you guys. Arenado's been one of the guys that has been most plagued for the the errors, and his defensive numbers overall are really bad in the month of May.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on there, because you can live with some of the fits and starts with him offensively. Defensively, he has to be good for you for this year and for the future. And if that's not going to be the case with Nolan Arenado, man, this contract looks dreadful for future seasons. I'm not there all the way yet. I still think he can figure this thing out. But it's been a really weird start to the season for Nolan Arenado for a number of reasons. You brought up, though, they've got to score 5 runs to win. It's 4+. If you get to 4 runs, the Cardinals have a pretty good chance to win this year. That's their formula. They have to be an offense-first team. And that puts a lot of pressure on you on a night in, night out basis. If you can't get to 4, and against teams like Philly, it's hard to do that on a consistent basis.
Yeah, a very clear difference after this weekend. That's BK. I'm Brooke and Matthew Rocchio. Coming up next, the Stanley Cup final is set, and we're going to talk to Chris Kerber about it. That's coming up here on the opening drive.
Hey, Jamie Rivers here for Window World. What do I love about Window World? Well, they are all about customer service and customer happiness. They're just a straightforward company with quality products professionally installed at a low price. They want to improve your home, and with Window World, you can make the improvement because they are now offering 36 months same as cash financing with approved credit. Plus, a lifetime warranty that covers all the parts, glass breakage, and labor. Call for a free in-home estimate, 314-993-1800, or look them up at windowworld.com.
I'm Dr. TJ from the Institute of Natural Health. I'm inviting you to check out our show, Wellness 101, every Sunday at 7 a.m. right here on ESPN. On Wellness 101, we talk about how to optimize your health as well as all things health-related. We discuss how to take control of your health by being your own health advocate, and we offer practical tips for you to become the healthiest you possible. On Wellness 101, we cover topics like optimizing hormones, thyroid health, gut function, cardiovascular health, sexual health and performance, and many more. So join Aaron and me every Sunday for Wellness 101 at 7 a.m. on ESPN.
Did you know there's little opportunity for youth with disabilities to play baseball and other sports due to lack of adaptive facilities? Well, that's about to change. The Gateway Region Y is partnering with Cardinals Care and the Boniface Foundation on construction of a new adaptive sports complex that includes a Miracle League baseball field for kids with disabilities. But your help is needed. The Y has launched its community fundraising phase, and opportunities are available for you to become a founding donor. Learn more at gwrymca.org.
All right, raise your hand. Well, only one of them if you're driving, and frankly, only one of them if you're in the office, so they think that you're still working rather than listening to a radio show through an app. But raise your hand if you have not had your air conditioner serviced yet this spring. How many of you have not gotten it ready for the summer that's coming, and yesterday maybe it's making an awkward sound if you're on the outside barbecuing? Well, call Classic Air Care. Get the routine maintenance done on your air conditioning unit now. Why? So it doesn't break down, or you decrease the chances of it breaking down in the middle of a hot summer. That's what they do at Classic Air Care. Now, they're going to be there for you if it does break down, if it needs repairs. But why do that if you can get it serviced and make sure that it doesn't need those later in the summer? Go to ClassicAirCare.com, book an appointment today. You can see their fantastic reviews. They've got a 4.8 Google rating, and all those links for it are at the top of their website. You can find out how satisfied their customers are. They're local. It's Classic Air Care. Book an appointment at ClassicAirCare.com, making people comfortable since 1926.
Hi, it's Randy Carricker for my friends at Golf Discount of St. Louis, the only golf store that I count on to help me with my golf game. They have all the top brands in golf, always at the lowest prices. Each location is staffed with expert club fitters and associates with decades of golf industry experience, making Golf Discount of St. Louis the best golf retailer in town. Now with 3 convenient locations, O'Fallon, Missouri, South County, and I'm excited to announce their brand new location is now open in Edwardsville, Illinois. It's the place to be for all your golf needs. Golf Discount of St. Louis.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Bring out the Zamboni.
It's time for KerbSide with the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, BK, and Matthew Rocchio here, and we head to the celebrity line to talk to the radio voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Kerbs, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. We got a Stanley Cup final all set. This will be good.
That's what I was going to start with. Stanley Cup final is set. It's going to be the Panthers and Oilers. This seems like this is actually going to be really exciting, and maybe the scenario that the NHL really wanted as well.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I don't know what leagues want. I don't know if what the league really wanted in the end, but I love the fact that you finally have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in a Stanley Cup final. I mean, you've got Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl against Matthew Tkachuk and Barkov, and I think it's going to be great. I mean, the brutal part of this one is that is one hell of a plane flight from Miami to Edmonton with customs to cross. But it's great to have a Canadian team back in a final. I think it was, Vancouver, the last one, when Boston beat them. Canadian team has not won the Stanley Cup since '93. So, I mean, and it's also two teams. It's the Panthers that have never won it, and it's Edmonton that hasn't won it since 1990 and hasn't been back in the final since '06. I think from a market standpoint, it's just fantastic.
Kerbs, on the plus side, they have until Saturday off for this series, and then between game 2 and 3 when they're traveling, it'll be another 3 days off there. So they'll get plenty of travel days in between. I am curious. We were talking about this in the group chat for BK and Ferrario last night. Is there anything that can be learned from Edmonton other than, hey, if you collect 2 of the best stars in the league, you're probably going to have some success? What's the bigger picture lesson from Edmonton getting out of the West in your mind?
Goaltending. And Connor McDavid in his post-game interview last night said it. He was asked, I think it was Henrik Lundqvist that asked him about Stuart Skinner. And he said, yeah, look, he's taken a lot of heat. But the difference is, and actually it was also Hanson Carter that then asked him about 1-goal games. And in both situations, he said, look, our goalie, he goes, it wasn't the prettiest of games tonight, but our goaltender stood on his head and stole that game for us. And that's something that the Edmonton Oilers haven't been able to say for quite some time. So I think there's a lot to learn in terms of how not to go about a rebuild from the Edmonton Oilers. But you could see even when you do that, how long it's taken them to get just back to the final with a superstar and 7 consecutive 100-point seasons from Connor McDavid. But in the end, you've got to have the one thing that we talk a lot, BK, that the St. Louis Blues have. And in the playoffs, it's goaltending. And my goodness, Bobrovsky got it done for Florida, and Skinner got it done for Edmonton. So that's I think, the biggest thing that you still got to make sure that you've got when you get to the playoffs is a goaltender that can steal you that game or two, even if it's in a clinching game.
We're talking to voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber. Kerbs now on the other side with the Panthers, and BK and I were discussing this before coming to you. I just think it's really interesting with this team, with Matthew Tkachuk. We talk about him all the time, but doesn't it seem like the Panthers have really just embraced and taken on his persona, and that's what we're seeing working for him right now?
Yeah, you know what, Brooke? I was thinking about this morning when it came to Bill Zito making that trade for Matthew Tkachuk. I mean, and don't forget, I mean, they traded Jonathan Huberdeau, who hasn't performed in Calgary at the same level of Tkachuk, but they traded this guy right after he had a 115-point season. So they made a hockey trade. And if you think of like the Ryan O'Reilly trade for the Blues, a hockey trade, and you even go back in history, Brett Hull to St. Louis for the pieces that went back to Calgary, won Calgary a Stanley Cup, or Jerome McGinley being traded by the Dallas Stars for Joe Nieuwendyk, and it won them a Stanley Cup, the Dallas Stars. Like, what a hockey trade that Florida made, and a franchise-changing trade for what they needed at the time. They had other pieces in place. They had Bobrovsky. They had Ekblad. They had Barkov. They had some of these other guys. And then they got Matthew Tkachuk to put him over the top like Ryan O'Reilly was for the St. Louis Blues in the end. And it actually got me excited about kind of this summer and see what teams do, because if there are hockey trades to be made, you can see how difference-making they can be. And absolutely, they have taken on his persona. They have his interviews after games, I think, are just spectacular, just like his dad. It's all about the team around him and the buy-in and what they're doing. He's an absolute leader on that team, even though he's not the captain. But you still have to have depth guys. And it's one thing, the biggest trade and the biggest difference aside from Stuart Skinner stepping up for Edmonton is the fact that when they got Zach Hyman and finally found a way to use Zach Hyman, and Zach Hyman figured it out, what a difference maker he's been for Edmonton, right? And then just you look at the depth of what the Florida Panthers had, and you've got to have it top to bottom. And yeah, they're following. They are as complete a team, as we've seen for a Stanley Cup run as since what the Blues really were, where it's a sum of all its parts.
Kerbs, when you think about that trade for Tkachuk, you have a better grasp on the history of these things, certainly, than I do. I think you're really good with this. Is that going to go down if the Panthers do end up winning this cup as potentially one of the most significant trades in recent NHL history, in your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely will. Franchise changing. Because, the other thing, too, is if you go to Hockey Reference or if you go to Hockey DB or even Cap Friendly, all of them great resource sites. Look at the age group of this Florida Panthers team. So when you hear Doug Armstrong talking about players at their core and what you're looking to acquire, well, look at that Florida Panthers team and look at the age of these stars and where they're at and what they've got. This Florida Panthers team has just gone to back-to-back cups, and they could go to several more, whether they win it this year or not. With the cap coming up, they can afford to keep some pieces. They've got some guys under. So, yeah, BK, it absolutely is one of those great franchise changes. If they win the cup this year, or even if it happens next year, you got to put it up there with the Nieuwendyk, with the Hall for trade and things like that, because those and even even if it didn't win a cup, another one that I put in the mix, the San Jose Sharks trading for Joe Thornton, a first overall pick that Boston just hadn't figured out how to use properly, and San Jose did not win a Stanley Cup, but they went on a 15-year tear of one of the best teams in the league and just didn't have the luck to get it done in the end. So yeah, that to me it's one of just the great trades easily of recent time, and I think you could make it one of the great trades of maybe the last 30 plus years.
Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, joining us here on 101 ESPN. Kerbs, we only got a minute here, but I'm curious. I got one more question for you on the Panthers. Sam Bennett next year will be entering the final year of his contract. He's a centerman, a legit top six center, and he's perfect for the style of play that they have. However, they've got some real cap questions, and you mentioned this is a team that could be going for multiple cups potentially in this run. Carter Verhaeghe is going into the final year of his deal. They also have Sam Reinhart, who is a UFA. They've got Brandon Montour, a big-time defenseman for them that is a UFA.
Yeah.
Do you think that they would consider trading Bennett this offseason to get rid of that $4.5 million cap hit? And if so, do you think he's somebody that could make sense for the Blues as a 27-year-old top six center?
Yep, I do believe he could. Now, the problem is, though, BK, is if you make that trade from a Blues standpoint, right, does that potentially block some space up the lineup for Dalibor Dvorsky? Even a year, not just next year, but maybe a year down the road. So I think that would play a role in it. The challenge that Florida has with some of those guys is kind of like the Blues did. The Blues won a cup towards the tail end of some contracts. Blackhawks, for example, won their cups when guys were at the beginning end of contracts, and it is going to be a challenge. Having said that, I do wonder at times if the Blues could have been more aggressive, should have gambled with more of the future to stay within a window. And I think that Florida is in that same spot where I think they need to gamble a little bit more down the road to keep more of those pieces in-house. And Bennett's one of those guys I think they got to try to find a way to keep.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kerbs. Have a great Monday.
All right, guys. Have an awesome week. Cheers.
All right, that was Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues. Coming up next, we have The Fight, and BK...
You got this. I'm excited for you. The Grizzly going to take care of the fight for us.
Oh, yes.
Let's hear for Brooke.
BK's really excited because he's not doing it.
Right.
That's what's really going on here. But yes, if you want to fight me, a.k.a. the Grim Reaper, then you can text into the Air Comfort Service text line. That's 314-399-9646, 314-399. Yo! The Fight with me is coming up next. Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and I want to tell you why I love the Missouri Athletic Club. I just love going over to the West location. I'm over there all the time. I'm actually going over there tomorrow for my personal training session. I work out there twice a week, and Christine is fantastic. It's been so much fun working out with her, and every time I go over there, the staff is so friendly, and I just really feel like I've joined a community. I love playing tennis with Scott. It's just been so much fun, and that's why I love my MAC.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals take just one of 3 games against the Phillies over the weekend. They will start a series against the Astros tonight. It'll be Kyle Gibson facing off against Justin Verlander. Over the weekend in the MLS, it was Inter Miami 3, St. Louis City 3 as they draw Messi Co. And in the UFL, a big win for the St. Louis Battlehawks, 13-12 over the Brahmas as they clinch home field throughout the UFL playoffs. They will have their first playoff game in the Dome next week. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy
Welcome back to the opening drive alongside Brooke Grimsley, who is taking part in the fight today. I am Brandon Kiley, and we do have Chris on the line today. He's going to be taking Brooke on in the fight. Chris, what's going on, man? How you doing this morning?
I'm fantastic. Happy Monday to you.
Absolutely, and a happy Monday to you as well. How you feeling today going up against the Grim Reaper?
Pretty good. You know, I played one other time. I played Randy, and I lost 3-2.
That's pretty good.
That's a good performance.
That's pretty good.
That's a really good
Not
performance. All right, I'm going to get questions 1 and 3 for you. Rocc will get questions 2 and 4 for you. You will get the options throughout. You ready to go, Chris?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do this. Starting out with number 1 for you. Thanks to Saturday's win, the Battlehawks will host the first pro football playoff game in St. Louis in nearly 20 years. The last one was held in the 2003 NFL playoffs when the Rams lost on a walk-off touchdown by which wide receiver? Was it A, Masyn Winn, B, Steve Smith Jr., or C, Ricky Prohl?
Ooh. Let's go with Muhammad.
All right. Happy birthday to former Cardinal Harrison Bader. Since departing STL, Bader has played for 3 clubs, the 2 New York franchises, and which other NL Central team? Was it the Reds, the Brewers, or the Pirates?
The Reds.
And he said that with some confidence.
He did. I like that.
The Reds.
All right, number 3. The Oilers will now take their shot at a 6th Stanley Cup, with their last win coming in the 1990 Stanley Cup final. Who did they beat to win that Stanley Cup final? Was it A, the Bruins, B, the Flyers, or C, the Flames?
What year was this again?
This was in 1990, their most recent Stanley Cup final. The Bruins, the Flyers, or the Flames?
Let's go with the Flames.
All right. Since 1961, that's the expansion era, there was only one pitcher to ever take a perfect game into extra innings before losing it, doing so on this day in 1995 against the Padres. Which Hall of Famer did it? Was that Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, or Pedro Martinez?
Oh, man. I feel like I'm just guessing at all these. First name that popped into my head was Randy Johnson, so let's go with him.
All right, we will double check our score. We will bring in Brooke Grimsley. Do you have a shot on her? I'll go get Brooke Grimsley.
How are you feeling about this, Chris? Your performance so far? You got 4 answers. How many do you think you got correct on that one?
I don't know, maybe 2.
You feel like you got 2 out of 4? All right, that'd be a pretty good performance, all things considered. It looks like we've got Brooke back in here. Brooke, how are you feeling about today's performance? You're going up against Chris today.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic. What about you?
I'm doing good. A little nervous because nobody can beat Megamind, so it's always a little intimidating to come into this.
And you know what? No one can beat Megamind, so it'd be unfair to expect you to beat Megamind. Like, we're now up to somebody got in last week, so we're now up to 4 in the last 2.5 years.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's unbelievable. So Brooke's going to do the modified Randy today. So Brooke, you get options on 2 of your 4.
Nice.
Okay.
So we're going to call it the modified Randy.
But if I really struggle, then I could get more than that, right?
No, it's just the 2.
Oh.
It's just the 2.
BK, what is
Brooke,
this?
no pressure, but Randy's listening. He's going to be mad at you.
Okay.
Chris!
Thank you,
With
Chris.
a mind game.
He's
Nicely
also
played.
listening to me and saying, BK, we got to stay on clock. So here we go.
Okay.
Question number 1, Brooke. Thanks to Saturday's win, the Battlehawks will host the first pro football playoff game in St. Louis in 20 years. The last one held in St. Louis was in 2003 during the NFL playoffs when the Rams lost on a walk-off touchdown by which receiver? Which receiver had the walk-off touchdown back in 2003 in the playoffs against the Rams?
Was it 2004 or 2003?
2003 season, 2004. It was in the 2004 year because the season carries over.
Okay.
Would Rock
Stupid NFL.
Okay, I might need to use options on this.
All right.
It's a little early, but yeah.
Your options are A, Masyn Winn, B, Steve Smith Jr., or C, Ricky Prohl.
Well, it's not going to be Prohl if the Panthers won. I knew that happened. I'll go with Muhammad.
All right. Happy birthday to former Cardinal Harrison Bader. Since departing St. Louis, Bader has played for 3 clubs, the 2 New York franchises, and which other NL Central team?
Oh, it's the Reds. That was weird. Wasn't that weird times?
You guys both said that.
It was only 14 games.
Extreme confidence.
Okay, so Chris got that one. All right, so I know that. All right.
All right, number 3. The Oilers, I didn't say which one he said. I'm just saying the answers to your question at number 2 was extremely confident. Number 3, the Oilers will now take their shot at their 6th Stanley Cup, with the last win coming during the 1990 Stanley Cup final. Who did they beat to win that final back in 1990, Brooke?
Ooh, well, okay, Rocc, you did not know this, but I was curious last night, and I did a little bit of research, and it was the Bruins. I know. You're not going to give me any clue if it. You just looked
I've got
away.
a poker face.
Okay.
I write the answers down. I'm not telling you if it's right or wrong. We'll get to that. That's what Rocky
Brooke's been watching me do the fight. She was like, he likes them topical questions. Let's bring up a list here.
Okay.
She did this. No, hey,
and also,
it's smart.
I
Good
got
work
this
by
with
you.
my research,
Brooke,
too.
I've been doing this for 2.5 years. You should know that if you want to do the fight, know what happened over the weekend. Know what happened that day before, because usually the fight questions come from there.
I'm just
doing
doing
this
my
for a
research
while.
on the team.
I'm not changing. I'm not changing how I do it, people. Come on, just think.
If there's a birthday, too.
Think and adapt.
Also, there's only so many questions to ask that aren't topical.
There was a birthday. It was happy birthday, Harrison Bader.
I knew it.
That explains it.
I do kind of lean into a certain type, but here we go. All right. Since 1961, there was only one pitcher to take a perfect game into extra innings before losing it. Doing so on this day in 1995 against the Padres. Which Hall of Famer did that? Do you want options?
Options.
Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, or Pedro Martinez?
Ooh. Hall of Famer. Which Hall of Famer did that? Those are all really good, guys.
Some people call it the Hall of Very Good, but
the Hall of Very
still
Good.
pretty.
Can you repeat it again, the options?
Roger Clemens, Randy Johnson, or Pedro Martinez?
I will go with Randy Johnson.
Brooke, what were you doing in 1995?
Like being a little girl.
Figuring out how to walk, like motor skills, reading.
You're not that much older than me.
That's my point, though. I was like, what were you doing in 1995? Anyway, we have a winner in today's fight. Chris has gone up against Randy. He fell 3-2 to Randy Carricker. How did he fare against the Grim Reaper? Ring that bell.
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
I'll be honest, Chris, I usually don't like hitting that sounder, but Brooke put in some yeoman's work today. It was a 2-1 win for Grimsley over you, Chris. Nicely done today on the fight. It was a tricky one today.
Thank you. Good job, Brooke.
Thank you, Chris.
Good job, Chris.
Those were not
Have a great
easy
Monday,
questions.
Chris.
Go
We
through those
appreciate
questions
that.
and answers.
Those are like some Randy questions. What are you
Thanks to
doing me?
Saturday's win. I'm doing the fight. This is what I do, all right? Thanks to Saturday's win, the Battlehawks will host the first pro football playoff game in St. Louis in 20 years. The last one was held for the 2003 playoffs in 2004 when the Rams lost on a walk-off touchdown by Steve Smith Jr. Randy Carricker went out, bought a Jason Sehorn jersey, and then put a footprint and put it on the Jason Sehorn jersey and wore it into the studio the next day because, man, Steve Smith just planted him. It was ridiculous. Happy birthday to Harrison Bader. Since departing STL, he's played for the Mets, the Yankees, and there was those 14 games with the Reds, which everyone agrees, pretty freaking weird.
That's really weird.
The Oilers will now take their shot at a 6th Stanley Cup, with their last win coming during the 1989-1990 final. They lost in 06 to the Hurricane, but in 89-90, they beat the Bruins 2 out of 3 years to win some Stanley Cups. And since 1961, there's only one pitcher to take a perfect game into extra innings before losing it. Doing so on this day in 1995 against the Padres. The Montreal Expos would get out of there with a 1-0 victory, but not before Pedro Martinez's perfect game bid was ruined in the 10th inning. But a 2-1 win for Brooke Grimsley today in the fight. Chris, thank you so much for joining the fight and joining the show today.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Okay,
I'm just glad nobody said Roger Clemens for that one. Would have been
upset.
BK knows what I did there.
Yes.
BK knows.
Yes.
BK, the amount of times that I have a question that says what Hall of Famer did this, and I stick either I stick like Barry Bonds or Roger Clemens
nod.
or Pete Rose in there, just like
He picked.
He also
picked Randy Johnson.
Oh.
If I'm with, it's one of those names where it's like if you see a ridiculous pitching like level, the big unit's always a good guess.
Yeah, I forgot about that with Pedro Martinez. So shame on me.
Pedro's good, but
tried
I
my
mean,
chances.
Randy Johnson's always a good
All right,
guess.
whew, all right. I was sweating and shaking a little bit there that we made it, but yes. So Randy will at least be somewhat proud of me tomorrow.
You're
I'll
like
probably be mad about
3-1 in
some
the
of those
fight this year.
answers.
Rocking it.
You're killing it.
We'll see. I don't want to do that ever again. Anyways, that was the fight. Coming up next, we're going to go to the celebrity line to talk to Chip Caray about the Cardinals as they head into play the Astros this weekend. That's coming up, or this week, excuse me. I'm getting my, you see, this is how shaken up I am after the fight. That's coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Decor Interiors and Jewelry. Look, there's never a bad time to give the gift of diamonds, and you should go visit my friends over at Decor Interiors and Jewelry. It's in Chesterfield at Olive and Woods Mill Road, and right when you walk in, you will be blown away by all of the options they have. Look, if you don't already know, it's in the name, so of course, clearly, but still, Decor Interiors and Jewelry is 2 stores in one. They have a beautiful contemporary furniture store in the front, and then an amazing jewelry store in the back. The owner, Joe, he is so kind, and I promise you that he will treat you like family. That is where I got my wedding ring at, and I get compliments on it all the time, and that's also where I got my wedding band. And when I stopped by recently, I got sidetracked with Joe and his staff, and it was just so much fun because we went through all the jewelry they have. Joe has a story for every single diamond and gem, every little piece of jewelry he has in store. He really knows his stuff, and so does his staff. They always take the time to just educate you on your purchase. So why not have them help you find the perfect gift for that special person in your life? Go stop by Decor Showroom today and tell them that I sent you. Decor, always unique, always affordable. opening drive, and we head to the celebrity line to talk to the voice of the Cardinals for Bally Sports Midwest, and that is Chip Caray. Chip, how are you doing?
Great. Good morning, guys.
Oh, we're doing great. And you were in Philly this weekend. I know that some of the games were not on Bally Sports, but either way, we know you're always watching. How was everything in Philly?
Well, it was great. Had a great time. It was three really well-played games, great atmosphere. The Phillies are an awfully good team, and the Cardinals held their own with them. And big win last night, a happy flight to Houston. So far, Brooke, a 500 road trip, a game under. And if the playoffs were to start today, we'd be a wild card. So things are definitely trending in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the game last night, there were some self-inflicted wounds, I guess is the best way to put it, with the Cardinals, and they still found a way to win. What were some other big takeaways that you had from that game?
They hit home runs. I mean, that always helps. Gorman hit a long homer. Burleson snapped out of his 0 for 17 with a long bomb. The way that they manufactured the run in the 10th inning to score. And then for me, the biggest takeaway in that game was the bullpen. Ali managed his bullpen spectacularly well, and especially the left-handers. John King, Matthew Liberatore, and JoJo Romero, I think, went 3 1/3 innings, allowed 1 hit, maybe 2 hits combined. And those left-handed lanes with Harper and Stott in the middle of that Phillies lineup, those were navigated so brilliantly, and that's what gave the Cardinals a chance to win. And I think it's safe to say that the relief corps for St. Louis this year has been a very, very pleasant surprise. They've done an excellent job, and as I said, Ali really managed them well. It was really maestro-like the way that he was able to navigate that Phillies lineup at home, and were it not for the 4 gift runs we gave him, the Cardinals might have shut him out. So it was just a really, really well-pitched game for St. Louis by and large.
Chip, it's BK. The last time that we spoke on the radio, I believe it was when I was doing a show with Danny Mack, and at the time you were with the Braves, and you guys were coming off of the World Series victory, and you were celebrating, and a lot of that was because of the young talent that the Braves had accumulated over the years. So you've seen a lot of that, and you've seen what it looks like at the beginning stages of a star's career. When I'm watching Masyn Winn right now, he's one of the more impressive young players that I've seen in recent years, because he does everything well, it seems like. For you, having seen what that looked like in Atlanta, what are you seeing that stands out to you about Masyn Winn in his first full season at the big league level?
He's not afraid of the moment. He's not afraid of the spotlight. He looks and acts like a big leaguer. The moment's not too big for him. I think I talked with Gary LaRocque about that, and he gave me the scouting report on Masyn, and he said basically whatever level we put him in the minor leagues when he was just starting out as a professional player, for the first several weeks or even a month or so, he would look like he was way out of place. But eventually he caught up to the league and figured it out. That's exactly what's happened for him. There's never a question about what he could do defensively, and we saw that last year. The question going into spring training in the early days of the season was, would he be able to hit enough to play every day? Well, I think he's answered that question. He hits the ball line to line. He puts the ball in play. He hits line drives. He doesn't try to hit home runs. He doesn't strike out, generally speaking. And obviously his defense has made our club so much better with a contact staff. The ball's on the ground. It's got to be caught, and it's got to be an out. And to your point, the last couple of weeks, it's been a little bit too sloppy for anyone's liking. But by and large, that really hasn't cost the Cardinals all that dearly as far as wins and losses are concerned. But to your point about Masyn Winn, no moment's too big for him. He's not intimidated by it, and I think he's starting to draw rave reviews, not just in St. Louis, but around the league as more and more people get to see him on a national basis. So he's fun to watch. There's no doubt about it, and I'm really excited about what his future holds.
Chip, you've been around this game for a really long time, and you have a Rolodex of shortstops or just players in general that you can think back to. Does his game, whether maybe it's something on the field or his mindset, his physical ability, does it remind you of somebody in your mind's eye that you've watched in the past?
From the Cubs, he would just wind up and blister the ball across the diamond and try to break Mark Grace's glove at first base back in the 80s. He certainly has that. He's got some of the acrobatics of Ozzie Smith. I think he has the mindset and the skill set mentally to play the game of an Edgar Renteria, who sometimes how the hell did he get to that spot? Why was he there? And it works out so well. We've seen some of Dansby Swanson, who's such a heady and intellectual shortstop. Throw a ball in the hole on the right side, he'll get up and throw to third to get the force play instead of trying to start a double play. Things like that. He's a step ahead. But I think what's going to be fun for him is he's putting his own spin on it. Ozzie Smith is one of a kind. But when a guy like Ozzie Smith gives you his endorsement as a player, I think that speaks more than anything an old broadcaster like me would say. So he's on his way. He's doing great, and we're really lucky to have him. And I really love watching him play.
Yeah, I think everybody is. We're talking to the voice of the Cardinals for Bally Sports Midwest, Chip Caray. Now, Chip, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but some of the self-inflicted wounds that we saw with the Cardinals, and we've also seen recently just some errors. What do you think is going on in regards to that?
Defensive team. It's a much better defensive team than last year. Lance Winn he muffed a bunt. That cost him a couple runs. The double play ball, I think, maybe if you have a chance to do that again, maybe Gorman takes the ball to the bag himself and goes ahead and throws to first and starts and finishes the double play that way. I guess the one way I would look at it is the Cardinals are getting to so many more balls now than they were last year that you're going to have errors. Last year, those might have been base hits. So at least they're knocking them down and giving themselves a chance to make a play. Just over the last 2 weeks, they haven't made them as cleanly or as consistently as they'd liked. But look, the sign of a good team is your pitching staff is able to cover that up, or your offense is able to cover that up. And last night they were able to do both of those things.
Chip, after this series, we'll officially be 60 games into the Cardinals season. Is there any one thing, whether it's a player, an aspect of their game, what has surprised you the most about the Cardinals as we're almost 60 games into the year?
Well, a couple of things. One, a lot of fans decried the age of the starters that the Cardinals signed this offseason. I don't think anybody in Cardinals Nation can complain with any great veracity about what Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, and Sonny Gray have done in rotation. They have done exactly what the Cardinals had hoped they would do, and even more. They've been consistent. They've been reliable. They've been very good. Look, Lance Lynn didn't go long in the game last night, but he's allowed the most unearned runs in baseball, and I think he's one of the lowest supported pitchers in baseball. Otherwise, his individual record would be a whole lot better. Gibson's been a rock-solid guy, great in the locker room, local guy who knows how to pitch and knows how to win. And the same for Sonny Gray, who's been just tremendous. And as great as those guys have been, for me, BK, the biggest pleasant surprise, has been how good the bullpen has been. It was a gasoline fire, a dumpster fire at many points last year. And with Mo totally reconfiguring that group, Helsley with the ninth inning role, JoJo Romero and Kittredge sharing the seventh and eighth and whatever lane they have, and the emergence of guys like King and Liberatore in relief, Ryan Fernandez, a Rule 5 guy. It's really been fun to watch how Ollie manages his relievers and watching those kids grow into these roles and not be intimidated by them. So for me, it's the pitching more than anything else on the positive side. On the other side, it's been the inconsistency of the offense, but we're still hopeful that's going to change.
Chip, one last question for you. Now, we know that there's a lot of injuries going on around the Cardinals right now, including yourself. How is your pickleball injury healing?
Oh, I am back 100%, Brooke. I'm a fast healer. Yeah, I haven't played pickleball yet. The hot girl walks have resumed. The calf is 100%, so you don't have to worry about me.
Okay. Well, I want to see you back on the pickleball court soon. We have
chicken and pickle tonight. Any tips, Chip, that you have for pickleball?
Yeah, don't get hurt.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
How about another one? Stay away from John Denton's drop shots.
John Denton from MLB.com is a devious pickleball player. He's got a wicked drop shot, so you got to be careful of that. You got to make sure that if you're in the kitchen, you're ready for that. And secondly, make sure you tell Katie Wu, if she's your partner, to have the back. Let's go, make some shots, make some plays, so you don't have to extend yourself and get hurt,
Chip,
especially in my dotage.
We have Katie on weekly on our show. We're going to have her on tomorrow. Any scouting report on Katie Wu as a pickleball player?
She's actually pretty good. But she doesn't handle spin serves very well. She didn't like that very much. So she's got to work on that. She doesn't like spin serves too much. But she's great. We're really lucky to have her. She's an awesome writer, does a great job, and she's back with the team. I think her coverage starts tonight as well. So it's always good to have Katie and John and Derek Gould and Lynn Worthy around. They're really talented people, and I know Cardinals fans appreciate their work as much as I do.
And it's always great having you on, Chip. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your week.
Okay, we'll see you guys when we get back home. Thanks so much.
That was the voice of the Cardinals for Bally Sports Midwest, Chip Caray. The Cardinals heading to Houston for a 3-game series. Starting tonight, it will be Kyle Gibson on the mound. First pitch is at 7:10. Coming up next,
Before we get to it, real quick.
Yes, of course.
Gibson versus Justin Verlander. I don't know if this is the case. 77 years old is the combined age between the two
Why
of them.
did you have to point that out?
This has to be. I don't know what the record is for oldest combined starters in a game. Maybe this can be a fight question for Randy for tomorrow. This has to be up there. It's got to be among the top 20-ish in recent years. 77 years old of the combined age of the starters. That's amazing.
Here's the thing. I've already found just two lefties who were 88 combined.
Rich Hill and somebody else.
David Wells and Jamie Moyer.
Sure, of course,
in 2007, two lefties are the two oldest lefty starters ever in a game. They combined to be 88 years old.
That's amazing.
That
Absolutely
is.
amazing.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But, we call them, we don't call
The
them
battle
old.
of the olds.
We don't call them old. We call them seasoned.
Oh, sure.
BK.
Experienced.
Seasoned.
Also, Kyle Gibson's been amazing. So this isn't a pot shot at him. He's been absolutely incredible for the Cardinals, but it's wild.
First one to crack a hip loses.
Oh, okay, come on. Well, we'll discuss
It's obviously
that.
gonna be
And
better.
also, we'll talk a little bit about Messi, too. We saw City SC and Inter Miami facing off against each other. Is there another player like Messi that would drive you to maybe the actual venue or even watch them on TV? We'll discuss that next, coming up in the Rush Hour Reset. Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and this year we decided it was time to make a major upgrade to our home by updating our bathroom. We have this house in U City. We absolutely love it. It's over 100 years old, and we like it, but we never really liked our main bathroom. But this is really the first time we've ever done a big renovation like this on our bathroom, and we weren't really sure where to start, so we reached out to our great friends and sponsors of 101 ESPN, and that is EMB Granite. EMB Granite's team visited our house for a free consultation, and they came up with the vision of how to really transform our bathroom. My favorite part of working with EMB Granite was stopping by their amazing showroom to explore their large selection of in-stock custom countertops, all their different cabinet options. Jen was the one who was working with us, and she has just been fantastic. She had so many great ideas for us that fit within our budget, and I'm happy to report we are finally done with our bathroom, and she really did make that vision come to life. It looks absolutely amazing, and that's what they've been doing there at EMB Granite for over 20 years, turning visions into realities. So schedule your free consultation by calling 314-645-9300 or go online to embgranite.com or stop by their amazing showroom today and make sure you mention that I sent you.
biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
It's time for the Rush Hour Reset. So this weekend, City SC and Inter Miami facing off against each other. And there's a pretty big name over there with Inter Miami. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him before.
Jordi Alba.
Yeah, that was the one that I was thinking for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely knew that name before this moment.
No, Messi. I think that's the name that we're all talking about. By the way, 3-3 draw for CSC. They were able to at least do that. So I think there's a positive takeaway. But BK, you brought this up in our group chat where with Messi, a lot of people pay attention to him. Even if you aren't the biggest MLS fan, biggest soccer fan, I feel like a lot of people know who he is, and he's the reason that you tune in. So is there another athlete like Messi that could drive you to watch him on TV or maybe even actually go to the actual venue?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this because Saturday felt like appointment television if you're a City fan. Not because you wanted to watch City, because you're a lot of the time going to be watching City, but because of who they're going up against. Like, yes. I need to see my team against that guy. And that feels almost like a rarity in today's game where you're like, I got to see the other team star against my team. Messi has that appeal. Like, my wife, who does not really care about sports, is interested. Like, she'll sit down, watch Cardinals with me and stuff. But, like, a super casual City fan, the most casual of casual City fans, she sat down and said, which one's Messi? It was like the first question she asked while City was playing on Saturday. And that's the appeal that he has that so few stars have in other sports. And so I was wondering, like, who else does that? Who are the other players in professional sports right now that, like, if the Cardinals played team X, Y, or Z, you're sitting down and not necessarily just watching because you want to see your Cardinals win, but because you're locked in to see that guy go against your team? I feel like Bryce Harper has that for me. Mm-hmm. He's one of the very rare major league players that I want to see him against the Cardinals. I don't know how many others are in that vein. I feel like Ellie De La Cruz, honestly, because he's so unique, kind of has some of that appeal to me. But then you have to watch
the Reds on top of that.
Fair. But like for him, just watching that athleticism on the field, it feels like a throwback. It's like, I want to see as much of that as I possibly can. I'm a Chiefs fan, so obviously I'm going to say, like, if I was not a Chiefs fan, I wouldn't want to see Mahomes against my team. Are there other players for you guys that you feel like if they come play against your team, you need to watch them, either in the stadium or on the television?
So baseball-wise, Shohei Ohtani, 100%. By the way, he got his 100th career stolen base, and so he's a player where he's a unicorn. That's something that if he comes to town, I bet you ticket sales go up. He's somebody that I would
went to the
watch.
game last year because I wanted to see Shohei pitch.
Exactly, and I think that he's a key part. But then, I mean, the Dodgers have so many talented players that you wouldn't also mind seeing like that. Mookie Betts, I would go see him as well. Paul Skeens, I think, is a new one that I find really interesting, where if I knew specifically he was pitching, I would go see him.
Rocc, do you have could be soccer, could be hockey, like, who are the guys for you that fit into that criteria?
Hell, man, McDavid might be up there with what he's able to do. That goal last night was ridiculous.
That's a good one.
I think there was a 3-year span where, for a lot of people, Steph Curry did that for the NBA. Where it was like, if the Warriors were going to be on national television, you were going to watch it because he was going to pop a 40-foot jumper at a very crucial time in the game, shimmy, do his little, Curry shimmy shake, and it was going to be an incredible game. I mean, there was a 3-year run where I think Curry had that.
Is there a current NBA guy that has that for casual fans? For locked-in basketball fans, Jokic is that. But that's not for a casual fan.
Jokic is fun, and he'll uncork that. But and Doncic is too. But it's just you're not expecting every single game those guys to go off for the triple doubles that make you just go, oh my God, they're going to do it a lot. Sure. But you were expecting Steph Curry to just make you go, oh my God, I've never seen that on a basketball court before. Every time he touched the ball for those 2 or 3 years. I think Caitlin Clark, with WNBA, with women's college basketball, obviously, I think hit that level. Yeah, before that.
We have a couple more on the text line, which you can text in as well. Is there a player that you would currently go see, or you would say, you said appointment television, which I think is a great way to put that. We also have Connor McDavid, which we mentioned. Yep. Caitlin Clark is another one that I think is really well. Somebody said not necessarily a team, obviously, but Tiger Woods is a player that here's the thing. It's been kind of rough watching him recently.
I don't feel like he's appointment television for me now, unless he's in contention.
Yeah.
It used to be where
do you still pay attention?
Not as much, honestly. I don't know if you guys are differ on this. I love Tiger is like the one golfer that has ever made me really like get to my television on Sunday because I got to see what this guy's going to do. I don't have the same pull that way that I once did. And unless he's in contention on a Saturday or Sunday, it's not really something that I'm like checking up on necessarily. At this point.
I agree with you, but I pay attention because it's like deep inside I'm rooting for him because he's able to come back, and I think that he's great for the game. Somebody said from 618, BK for the home run derby.
That's for very different reasons.
Very mean.
Must watch
Very mean.
television. You've got to get to the ballpark.
He says, I've watched 10 WNBA games this year. That's a first one for me. And I've honestly watched more WNBA games full on than Cardinals games so far. But that's honestly because of my TV.
Fair.
Very fair, but nonetheless, I think that's crazy that she's actually drawing people to WNBA. I think is exactly kind of this level because there's a lot of people who wouldn't have watched an MLS game, but as soon as you bring in the Messi, I don't care what level of competition it is, I don't care what version of the sport it is, I'm watching Messi play soccer.
One of the guys for me, NFL related, Jamar Chase. He to me, if you're like non-quarterback edition in the NFL, scariest player that your team can go up against. Jamar Chase at any point can go off for an 80-yard touchdown. That guy to me is the scariest individual to go up against in the NFL right now. So I view him as pretty close to appointment level television.
I think you're spot on with Patrick Mahomes because, of course, I'm a little bit jealous being a Titans fan of seeing the Chiefs' success, and it seems like everybody's a little jealous of the Chiefs right now. But I have so much respect for Patrick Mahomes because the way that he does it, every single time that it feels like you could doubt him and the Chiefs' ability and what they're able to do. I mean, look at last season, for example. The Chiefs' defense really was the highlight, but they still found a way in the win at the end because of Patrick Mahomes and what he's able to do. I respect that so much, and he's such an exciting player to watch. I don't like watching him against the Titans, but still, he's such an exciting player to watch. I would go see him.
You got to be a part of one of his all-time career highlights, the run at the end of the first half against the Titans.
Oh, thank you.
Whenever he gets into the Hall of Fame, that will be prominently featured in the montage.
Somebody here said at 66, this is a really good answer because I got caught into this literally yesterday. Somebody said Simone Biles.
Sure.
I was not expecting it, but I walked downstairs yesterday, and the USA Championships, I believe is the technical term for them yesterday, were on, and I watched 30 minutes of gymnastics because I got to see her do two of the 4 events, and she got gold in all of them and was the USA champion again. That I watched it. So right here, that's the answer to the question. Simone Biles did it to me literally yesterday.
We can all agree the last St. Louis athlete to have this was Albert Pujols.
Oh, yes.
There hasn't been one that has mass appeal since, right? Am I missing somebody?
No. I think at the beginning of the year, you have a lot of people excited to see some of the younger players.
Right, but I'm talking like when the Cardinals, if you're a Phillies fan and the Cardinals are coming to town, the guy that you need to go to the park to see, the last one that had like must-watch appeal nationally, I think was Albert.
A good way to
you
know how people say like a good way to like do your Hall of Fame thing is like, was that player ever like the greatest at their position for an era or something like that? A good way to like couch this answer is, are you going to tell somebody in 50 years that you saw this player play in person?
And some people Yachty might have had some people, of that.
That's kind of like the bar I think you have to clear. Sure. And I think it's Yachty and it's Pujols and maybe it's Waino getting 200.
Yeah, there's a lot of people locked into that. Sure. But I think when you're talking about nationally, another one, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto.
It's a deep cut.
I don't know that Soto does this for me. I don't know why.
Aaron
Judge would.
Yes.
Judge would for sure.
I think that's a really good one. One more, Rocc? Did you see? I saw you giggling over there.
Somebody said McGuire and Sosa in the late 90s.
I got that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's one of those things where if you watched it and you experienced it, you're going to talk about it for the rest of your life.
Lamar early on in his career had some of that.
God, man, you know what? That 50 touchdown season was
unbelievable. His game against Miami
insane.
was one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen.
That was ridiculous. He looked so small, and you thought at any moment he's going to get broken in half. Just kept on slinging it. Just kept on going deep. Torrey Smith, not Torrey Smith. Was it Torrey Smith still?
He might have been there that
I think it might have still been Torrey Smith.
Yeah. Well, that's Rocc, BK, and I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we were talking about Caitlin Clark being must-watch TV, but do you really want to watch when this is happening in the WNBA where she's getting pushed around? We'll discuss that next, coming up here on The Opening Drive. Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and I want to share with you something that I wish I knew about a while ago, and that is Golden Oak Lending. Listen, I know that a lot of people have been there before, possibly racking up credit card debt or maybe even student loans. I know that I've been there, but the people over at Golden Oak Lending, they are there to help you. While credit card payments have been at an all-time high and mortgage rates have gone through the roof, there is good news. Mortgage rates have started to come down. Golden Oak Lending has mortgage rates at 5.375% fixed, with customers saving on average $1,114 a month, which I know would help so many people out right now. Golden Oak Lending, they just make it so easy to do just that. I called in, I spoke with Jason, who made the call just super quick and professional, and he really educated us on our current loan on our house and what to look for in the future with just a few simple questions. Finance has really never been my thing, but Jason really made sure to educate and guide me to the best solution for my needs. And that's what they do there at Golden Oak Lending, personalized service that makes you feel heard and really addresses your needs and stress surrounding finances. So call today at 314-567-GOLD now to get started, or go to goldenoaklending.com and you can see all the reviews for yourself. 5.934% APR FHA, 15-year fix with 20% equity and qualified credit. Additional terms apply. NMLS number 114937.
And Clark. I mean, that's clear all which was called. The question is, will they call it unnecessary? Kennedy Carter.
We're just going to keep sending these possessions to the league and these plays, and hopefully they'll start, taking a better look at some of the things that we see happening or we think is happening. Just more happy that Caitlin handled it the way she did. It's tough, to keep getting hammered the way she does and to not get rewarded with free throws or, just a foul call. Like she's continuing to fight through that. And that's what, appreciate that from her. Really, really proud of her for doing that.
That was Indiana Fever head coach Christy Sides, and she was talking about Caitlin Clark because obviously this weekend everybody was talking about the WNBA, and not for the right reasons. I think is the best way to phrase it. Everybody saw what happened with Kennedy Carter and with Caitlin Clark there, and it's really got a lot of people talking about if Caitlin Clark is being targeted too much. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for the WNBA to have this type of spotlight on them because of Caitlin Clark? Everybody saw what she did in college, and for good reason. She's an exciting player, and honestly, every time I've heard her post-game comments or anytime that she does an interview, I feel like she's a very true and honest person. I don't see a big showy personality. Now, sometimes you would see it out on the court, of course, with her logo threes. But at the same time, I feel like she comes across as a really good role model. So then when you have new viewers, new eyes coming to watch the WNBA. And I'm not trying to say that nobody was watching the WNBA before, but obviously this brings in a lot bigger of an audience. Is this the right look for Caitlin Clark to be, I guess, push away or push around is the best way to put this?
Yeah, I mean, welcome to the big time. That's what this is. And I'm not saying people have to like it. I don't particularly love it. I think that her teammates should be sticking up for her in a way that we haven't seen thus far. I think that's a big part of this story that's not really getting discussed a whole lot. If you've got a star like Caitlin Clark, we see this in the NHL all the time. If you've got a Connor McDavid, eventually you need guys that can stick up for Connor McDavid to make sure that he's not going to get pushed around on the ice. Because if teams have the opportunity to do so, that's the best way to slow him down. The best way right now to slow down Caitlin Clark is to get super physical with her, and that does, at times, including this weekend, cross a line. Now, that being said, Brooke, it is interesting to me that, I mean, we can go to the text line right now. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Our text line is more fired up about this than anything that happened over the weekend with the Cardinals.
Oh, I saw it. I mean, all day, because everybody's talking about it. They talked about it on Unsportsmanlike this morning, and I was listening to Michelle talk about it. And, you know, just from a female perspective, Michelle and I have discussed this before about, you know, there's always, and I'm sure a lot of other women can understand what I'm saying here, is that sometimes women are always pit against each other. Not saying that that doesn't happen with men. I'm sure you can speak to that as well, because, I mean, in business, everything's competitive, but sometimes the narrative is that women are very catty and that, you know, they can be divas and that they're jealous of each other. And that just feels like what this narrative has turned into. And I'm going to be honest, when I look at it, I see what Carter did, and it felt very targeted in that moment. And you could also see her mouthing the B word. And so it feels like very intentional. And then in the comments afterwards, she said, I'm not talking about Caitlin Clark. You should be talking about Caitlin Clark. Her coach is right beside her. There should be some sort of accountability, and especially from the WNBA. I'm not saying that the WNBA and the players need to bow down to Caitlin Clark. I don't even think Caitlin Clark has insinuated that in any way. I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, well, you know, she's got them charter flights and they should be grateful, which to me, it's a new person coming in. It's more eyes. I think it's a good thing. What I don't think is good is that you have younger audiences who are also tuning in, and this is what they see. I think about the young girls who are seeing this, and is that exactly the best look? And then, I mean, just the comments afterwards, I think are just ridiculous. For Carter to do that, just go ahead and say what you want to say. You know, own up to it a little bit.
Yeah, and she eventually did take to social media and basically say how Caitlin Clark is overrated. Like, she said what she wanted to say. It just wasn't in the press conference setting because I don't think she wanted to say it right there. I think what you're seeing is that this was a situation where a WNBA player had their Patrick Beverley moment. Like, you're going to see this. And the WNBA is now getting a lot of the same coverage that the NBA gets.
Yeah.
And that means what is spotlighted. It's not what happened in the game in terms of the result of that game. It's what happened in the game that made headline news. And that's the case in the NBA as well, where if you see something that took place where Draymond Green gets off his rocker for a moment, hey, that's going to be what everybody's talking about the
just
next
for
game.
One moment. It's been multiple
100%.
moments with Green.
If you see a situation where somebody like that's a star ends up melting in the spotlight in a big moment in a playoff game, that's going to be the storyline as opposed to what the winning team was able to accomplish. So the WNBA, some of what's happening right now is just the reality of what it looks like when your league makes it to the national stage in a way that we've never seen before with the WNBA. It's just the reality of it. I think Caitlin Clark has handled it really well. I think her team needs to get better with some more toughness added to the roster next year.
Do they add an enforcer? That was another thing. Do they add an enforcer to help? But then,
yes. Size and physicality is what they need with her.
Yeah.
The fact that we're talking about roster construction for the Indiana Fever is a huge leap for the WNBA. So while I don't love what we saw on television the other night, in some ways, this is good for the league. Like, long term, this is going to be something that the league is going to be able to capture a lot of the emotions of what's taking place right now, and they're going to capitalize on it. So all things considered, it sucks that this is the way that it's happening, but it's going to be a good thing long term for the WNBA in my mind.
I just think that there's a difference between competitiveness and unsportsmanlike conduct. I think that's the biggest thing for me. And I think that was the moment where it crossed the line, because I get competitiveness. And as you mentioned, we see it all the time. I mean, big name star, somebody who's considered a generational talent comes in, there's a lot of hype around them. And then, you know, the older players are like, well, I've been here. I've done a lot of big things. You know, now this person's going to get attention. No, I'm going to really show them. I understand that there's a little bit of a rookie hazing that comes into it, but I think at a certain point, it really crosses the line of unsportsmanlike conduct. And I think that's the point that we're starting to get here.
Yeah, yesterday was that point.
Yeah.
Whenever that happened, we saw them cross the line.
Yeah, exactly. That's BK, Rockio, and I'm Brooke. Coming up next, we are going to talk to the head coach of the Battlehawks, and that is head coach Anthony Becht. We'll talk about the playoffs. That's coming up next here on the opening drive. Hey everyone, it's Brooke here for Universal Windows Rec. Summer is pretty much here. We were debating about that. I think that it's pretty much warm enough outside to consider it summer, but you do not want to cool off the outside this year. So you should call my guys over at Universal Windows Rec. While we're all excited for it to get a lot hotter outside, I know I am. I like the sunshine, but I'm not excited about seeing that upcoming energy bill. And that's why you should go to Universal Windows Rec. Their windows feature super spacer technology, which helps keep the edge of the glass warmer, holds the window seal longer, and makes your windows last up to 5 times longer than other Windows systems. So your windows from Universal perform better and they last longer. Schedule your free in-home estimate today, and for every 2 windows you buy, get the next 2 for free. Plus 0% financing for 36 months. Restrictions apply. Mention my name and get an additional $250 off your next project. Go to uwd.com. That is uwd.com. Like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals take 1 of 3 from the Phillies over the weekend. They will start a series against the Astros tonight, 7:10 first pitch. It'll be Kyle Gibson, the righty for the Cardinals, facing off against the righty for the Astros, Justin Verlander. Over the weekend, Inter Miami 3, St. Louis City 3, as they draw that match in Miami. And for the UFL, it was a big win for the STL Battlehawks, 13-12 over the Brahmas, as they secured home field advantage throughout the UFL playoffs. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
We go to the celebrity line to talk to Battlehawks head coach Anthony Becht. Coach Becht, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Brooke. It's great to be on. Exciting times, obviously, for our team and our staff, and obviously the city of St. Louis, and just really excited about having the opportunity to come home in the first round and to see maybe the largest crowd ever in our last 2 years at least, and maybe even playoff history.
Yeah, this is such an exciting time. As you mentioned, a lot of excitement because the Battlehawks will now host a professional football playoff game for the first time in St. Louis in 2 decades. How does that feel, Coach?
You know, it's really rewarding. I think, obviously for me last year, being a first-time head coach, really just wanted to, put a winner together for St. Louis. I just wasn't happy about just getting my first-time head coaching job and being excited about that, and that was the goal. Like, I wanted to win last year. So go 7-3 last year, kind of get squeezed out of the playoffs where we felt like we should have got in, and then rectifying that year 2, putting another winning product, going undefeated at home. I think that's awesome as well. We're able to bring a winning product every single week to St. Louis and the fan base because they deserve it. And I promised them that. And now it's like, okay, we clinched the spot. We had another winning season, and now we get to showcase our city in the national spotlight again in a playoff game. Professionally, it's been 20 years since we've had one in St. Louis. I just think it's been remarkable, and I can't wait to walk out of that tunnel and see the electricity and really see what that crowd looks like for a playoff atmosphere.
Coach, you've seen what it looks like here in St. Louis playing in the NFL, whether it was with the Rams or coming in here to St. Louis, playing against the Rams back in the day. How has the reality of being back here as the coach of the Battlehawks lived up to your expectations?
It's been great. Just truly humbled and fortunate, one, to be given the opportunity to be a head coach. I think that, when you look at the processes of head coaches getting hired and at the professional level, I was kind of that outcast, right? Like, oh, well, we don't know. The resume doesn't fit up, but just was really just determined. And from day one, when Danny Garcia and Dwayne Johnson and Redbird Capital, bought the league, the XFL league, from bankruptcy, I said that day to my wife, I'm going to be a head coach in this league, and I was determined to do that. But I knew just getting it, like I said, guys, wasn't enough. You have to prove so much to do that. So I'm just grateful for the league trusting me and really trusting me with the team in St. Louis, because as you know, the fan base has been great in the past, but what it's really built up to and be able to have the combination of a winning team and an awesome fan base that brings it every single game, and it's a problem now. It's a problem for teams. They love they love the atmosphere, but man, it's draining on third downs. And we put the hand up on third down, those fans react. And again, it could be the noise never heard before. I mean, I've been in a couple of those dome games back when I played. We weren't great in 08, 09, whatever those years, but I remember the greatest show on turf. I remember how loud it was in those games. We have an opportunity to really do that again here this week.
We're talking to Battlehawks head coach Anthony Becht now. The game this weekend had me sweating a little bit towards the end there, Coach. But you have to tell me with the
I was sweating as well. Yeah,
I'm sure you were. So you had a super challenge late that ended up, I think, really just being the difference, honestly, in the game. What happened in that moment? Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, no doubt. So, clearly the play before, there was a defensive penalty that we were kind of looking at, that there may have been some simultaneous movement between their tackle, and maybe there was an opportunity there because, in those moments, guys, in those scoring situations late in the game, we're always got eyeballs. Hey, guys, keep an eye here, trying to alert the coaches. So after that play happened, clearly we had more eyeballs on the next play. And Bruce Grakowski was up in the box, noticed, hey, I think they had a lineman downfield. I said, okay, well, look, we got a little break here. We got some time. I need a number. We got to make sure he wasn't blocking him through the end zone, because you can block him out of the end zone as long as you're engaged. He has to be disengaged with the defender. And if he's within past 3 yards in the end zone from the line of scrimmage and the ball has not been thrown by the quarterback, then there's clearly an illegal man downfield. Well, we threw the challenge during the break. We got it. Pereira was up in the box. Obviously, he called it. We won the challenge. And now, from the penalty prior, it had moved it from a 2-point conversion from the 5 to the 2. And then that was the penalty. And then that's when we had the penalty that we challenged from the 2. So now that got moved back to the 7. And you guys know you can go for 1, 2, or 3. And really, I think there's only been 2 times teams have gone for the 3-point conversion at the 10. So anytime you get past the 5-yard line, it gets incredibly tough to score from that range. So that was extra 2 yards, were the difference. And you're right. It obviously allowed our defense to make a big play, knock the ball out, and was the difference in the game in that moment. I mean, a lot of things came into play throughout the game that made it to where it was at. But in that moment, man, credit to my staff and everybody coming together, making sure we're on the same page, and then obviously getting that flag thrown out. And again, finally, the super challenge. I feel like the super challenge for me, I didn't use it for 4 weeks, and then 1 week I used it, and it was like, I could have used it somewhere else. And then the last 2 weeks we really hit it on the money. So just incredibly grateful, because it is a quote unquote challenge to really think about where you want to use that, and it's worked out in our favor the last 2 weeks.
When you think about the rules that have been implemented in the UFL, Coach, now that you've seen them in play for a couple of seasons, is there any one or two that in your mind has had the biggest impact on the style of play that we see in the UFL compared to what you previously saw in the NFL?
Yeah, I think you have a little bit of control with the super challenge, so that's nice. We get everything reviewed. I just think situationally, there's a lot of things that come up that if you're on it, you have a chance to really, reward yourself as a team. And I think just in general, I think when we watch games in college or pros, we see things that happen situationally that just lose games. And, I take it upon myself and just to really be on it. I don't want to. I've been in games as a player where our coach kind of maybe made a decision. We're like, that kind of cost us. I don't want that. Our guys work too hard throughout the week. We ask them to do too much for me to be wrong, and that's a lot of pressure to be on it. But just being engaged and the extra points are a difference maker. It's more to think about. I'm like a mathematician, kind of. Thank God it's only addition on the sidelines, because I'm constantly counting the points, like where we need to be. What will they do? What could they get? What would they do? And if they get it after we get it, where are we going to be so that we can still be in play to maybe, capture the lead or tie the game? So again, it's not having those play calling responsibilities allows me to do that. It's part of my job, and I want to be clean on it. So far, knock on wood, it's been good, and we got to be super clean on that stuff as we get into the playoffs here in a week.
Manny Wilkins stepping in for A.J. McCarron while he was still dealing with an injury, but you got A.J. McCarron back this weekend. What did you see from him?
I think there was a lot of question from people maybe from the outside, like, why would we play him? They were in the playoffs. Like, he doesn't need it. But you got to think about this. When you don't play for 2-3 weeks and you're a quarterback, the rust is going to be there. So do we want to have the rust in the playoffs? Is it strategic how we use them? Is there a snap count? Because, he's got to have confidence. I can't just throw him into the fire in a playoff game in an atmosphere that may be the biggest atmosphere that we've seen in St. Louis in 20 years. I just feel like, to me, that conversation was a long one. And, he was disappointed he didn't play the week before and the week before that. And, again, those are decisions as a coach, you got to live with and be decisive with. And, players aren't going to like him sometimes. And, he's just really competitive. He's a tough player, and he was able to get through and feel good about it. So now there's confidence. And there was rust. There's no doubt about it. But now it's like, okay, we can move forward from that. Feels good about what the training staff and the doctors did. An incredible job, Erica Avila and the staff there, really just coming together, making them feel great. And, again, just him battling through. So, a lot of guys are banged up on our team. We're working through those things every single day, even, heading into this week. But, again, for AJ's concern, having the confidence, it should take a dramatic jump as far as what his play was and what it can be next week.
Coach, final question that I've got for you. You guys went through a lot of adversity this year, whether it was with AJ going down, some tight nail-biter finishes in games. What have you learned about your team throughout this season now that you're heading to the playoffs?
Incredibly high character, bought into a culture in a short amount of time, physical. They respond. Every loss that we've had or adversity we've had against the wall this year, we've responded with a win. And just really, it really speaks to the character of our team. And I think just building depth, Dave Bowler, myself in the offseason, just looking at where the holes are, where we needed to improve. And then really having an incredible coaching staff. Listen, I got a legit staff across the board, offense, defense, that do an incredible job that allows these players to listen to their voice and respect what they say and take it to heart, because these guys not only are great coaches, great communicators, but have actually done it at a high level in the professional leagues themselves. So, again, I think, just battling through those adversities of injuries and making sure you have depth and preparing for those moments so that the season doesn't shut down when your starting quarterback goes down. So, we don't make excuses. We build and try to enhance ourselves so that we, can at least continue to survive when those tragedies happen. And they did. And, again, 7-3, 2 years in a row, clinching a playoff spot. Just incredibly, proud of what the staff and the players have done. And again, we promised this to the city, right? Last year, this year, that we would put the product out there, and now they get a chance to really, show the nation next week as a playoff team, what this can be on a primetime level. We did it week one at home when we played at home, or it wasn't week one, but our first home game, 40+ thousand. What can it be now? Can it be 50? Can it be 60? I mean, it's up to the fans. It really is up to the fans. Let's commit to this. It's 1 week, and then, hey, let's see what happens. If they commit, I promise you that we'll live up to the expectation, and then, hey, we may have a championship in St. Louis, and who only knows, we may have standing room only for that game.
I was about to say, tickets are going on sale at 10 a.m., and I was going to say, if you had one last message for the fans, but I think you said it best right there. You just want to pack the Battle
Bring
Dome.
one friend, and we'll sell the place out. 30 with one more friend, right? 30K, we'll get 60. And let's do it. I mean, why not? Like, what are we doing next week? I mean, I think the Cardinals may be an early game, and, everybody's just been so grateful, just, the way they split their time up across different sports venues throughout the city. But, hey, let's put our hands all into this one in the playoff game. Let's have fun. It's a great experience. You guys been to the games. I mean, Austin, the NASCAR driver, Cindric, won the race. He was at our game. He even talked about our game after the race. I mean, he was just in awe of the crowd. And that was just half the building, right? So, hell, let's do it, man. Let's go all in and let's enjoy it, have a great time, and see what happens.
Thank you so much, Coach. And we will talk to you hopefully next week about this, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Brooke. Be well. Thank you. Go Battlehawks.
That was Battlehawks head coach Anthony Becht. And as we mentioned, tickets will be going on sale soon, 10 o'clock. You can go to ufl.com/tickets to get tickets for this coming Sunday's game that will be at the Battle Dome. It will be the Battlehawks versus the San Antonio Brahmas once again. And we're hoping that the Battlehawks will win this one, of course, because we want the Battlehawks in the championship. But Battle Dome, I feel like Battle Dome advantage is a real thing. And just the fan support. Yeah, the fan support is something that is just really, really fun to see. You guys have been to the games, right?
Yep.
It's such a fun atmosphere. And I feel like you get a different experience with whatever game you go to here in St. Louis. City SC has a great atmosphere. You know, obviously the Cardinals, the Blues, different things like that. But the Battlehawks, I don't know how you would describe the atmosphere there.
Just fun. That's
just
it.
Fun, big party.
Yep.
And so hopefully they will be able to come away with a win. Well, coming up next, we have Rocc Roll. That's next on the opening drive.
No contract, no enrollment fee. With summer just a heartbeat away, the time to join Club Fitness is now. Sign up with a platinum membership by Monday, June 3rd. No contract, no enrollment fee, just results. Join now at clubfitness.us or stop by any of our 19 locations.
Daddy, the potty's overflowing again.
Plumbing issues? Call the Chesterfield Service Unclog Squad for any of your sink, drain, or mainline service needs. Chesterfield Service is your premium home service team and has been serving the St. Louis area since 1976. Give them a call today at 636-200-3489 or visit their website at chesterfieldservice.com.
Daddy, it's everywhere.
Change up your daily fantasy game. No more lineups. Let's go with some Pick'em with our friends over at Underdog Fantasy and their new Pick'em game. Right now, live in Missouri, Pick'em Champions. You just pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams. Select higher or lower on the player stat projections. You get to pick your entry fee and everything. As long as you hit your entries, you're walking away with your winnings. Let's build an entry right now. Let's start it off here. 2 easy ones. We're going to go Justin Verlander, higher than 6.0 strikeouts, and Kyle Gibson, higher than 4 strikeouts. Right there, I'm expecting a lot of strikeouts in today's game. And the best thing is you can build your entry from there. If you want to add some WNBA, you want to add some golf even, you can do that all on Underdog Fantasy. Once the playoffs get going again, you can go with the NHL and the NBA as well. Combine all the different sports you want across the board for your entries on Underdog Fantasy. It's super easy to play and even easier to get started. You just go to the easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with the promo code ROCC, and Underdog will give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry and a deposit offer. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus and present in state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Consider the play call. 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncbgambling.org.
And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
Brooke, BK, and Rockio here, and it is time for Rock and Roll. But first, BK, we have some tickets to give away.
How about this? We got a Bud Bash giveaway. It is the latest edition of this. And earlier today, we were talking about Kyle Gibson going up against Justin Verlander tonight. This is your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash game for the Cardinals versus the Pirates. Next week's Bud Bash game, of course, is a limited edition bobblehead. This one with Jason Isringhausen. If you were texter number 101 right now at 314-399-9646 and you can answer this question correctly.
I thought you were about to do Yoho, and I was, did you see? I was geared up, ready to go. It's muscle memory for me.
Wasn't about to do that. 314-399-9646. If you are the correct texter with the 101st texter, and you know the combined ages for Justin Verlander and Kyle Gibson, the combined age for those two pitchers on the mound tonight. If you're texter number 101, you're getting the 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Bud Bash game.
And we're not saying old. We're not calling them old. We're calling them very well seasoned.
Experienced.
Experienced.
That's my word that I like to use for
very
them.
well seasoned is a good way to put it. All right, so get the text in for that. What do we have for Rock and Roll, Rock?
Well, we had some breaking news early in the show. We haven't really been able to dive into it the way we should, and that is because the Vikings and 3-time Pro Bowl wide receiver Justin Jefferson have reached an agreement on a 4-year, $140 million contract extension that includes $110 million guaranteed, and it makes him not only the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history, but it makes him the highest non-QB in NFL history. It includes $88.7 million due at signing, which is also the highest non-QB guarantee at signing in NFL history. And of course, if you're a guy like CeeDee Lamb, you're sitting out there thinking, ka-ching, 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 because the wide receiver market just went up, ladies and gentlemen.
Man,
That
good
is a
for him,
huge
first of all.
number.
He's worth this money. It's the rare non-quarterback that I think you have to pay. And this is why they didn't re-sign Kirk Cousins in the offseason. You can't pay both of them.
Good gosh. This is a lot of money. Now, it's intriguing because remember, a lot of people were talking about how he was visiting the Jets facility. So maybe that was kind of marking up the price a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a free agent, though. They had
Do you remember those
franchise tag.
photos and stuff coming out? You know what I was talking about.
I feel like that stuff always gets overblown a little. If the guy is going to be a free agent, then yeah, you can mark up the price. But Justin Jefferson was always about to get paid. And this offseason, we've seen Jefferson get paid. We saw A.J. Brown get $32 million. Amon-Ra St. Brown get $30 million. Jalen Waddle get $28 million. Devontae Smith got $25 million. Nico Collins got $25 million. It's the year of the wide receiver in the NFL. And Brandon Ayuk still needs to get paid as well. I'm guessing he'll get 30 plus.
Yeah, and you said earlier a player that you would tune in to see is Jamar Chase. So Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb, after they're seeing these numbers, what are they thinking right now?
35 plus. If I'm Jamar Chase, I'm getting 35 plus. $35 million and $1 per year. That is what my expectation will be at a minimum.
This blew my mind. Adam Schefter tweeted out the graphic comparing Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb. Just in my head, I was like, okay, yeah, but why are we doing this graphic? They're not that close. On catches, Justin Jefferson 392, CeeDee Lamb 395. Yards, Justin Jefferson 5899, CeeDee Lamb 5145. Total touchdowns, Justin Jefferson 31, CeeDee Lamb 35.
Now this is where
the numbers. They're not the same level.
Myself,
they're not the same level of player. Those numbers are not.
Numbers can fall a bit short.
Yes, because they're not the same player.
I will tell Matt Rocchio in response to those statistics, which I know that's not your point you were making. Yeah, watch the games.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, those are not the same numbers. Those are not the same numbers. My point being, though, is that we know that Justin Jefferson is a lot better than CeeDee Lamb, just flat out. But
the numbers are close.
When you have the same numbers as the guy, the fact of the matter is you and your agent are going to say, this is our price point. Now, that's my point being, is just he's going to get...
Oh, he's getting 30 plus.
He's going to get a disgusting amount of money. And there has not been a great track record for truly elite number one wide receivers getting second contracts in the NFL. It usually does not go too well for them. And I'm wondering which of these guys are going to be a big problem for their team in 3 years.
The really tough part is it's hard to pay your quarterback and a wide receiver, and it's nearly impossible to pay your quarterback and multiple wide receivers or multiple other elite level players at their position. And the Cowboys have quarterback, wide receiver, defensive end, and corner potentially paying elite level money to. It's tough, man. They're going to have to make some really difficult choices, and I think it's why Dak Prescott is probably not going to be there long term.
Oh, well, maybe that will be better for Dak in the long run there. Because you mentioned it earlier. I mean, Jerry Jones and that whole situation, it feels like they will never be able to get out of their own way with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we have seen them do this offseason with the way that they're operating is they're behind. You should have got the CeeDee Lamb contracts done already. You're behind by not getting it done, and the price just keeps going up. It doesn't get cheaper the longer you wait. It gets more expensive. With Dak, what more could he prove to you? You know who he is as a player. You're either in on him or you're out on him. I said this last week on our show. You had two options, in my opinion, with Dak this offseason. You extend him or you trade him. They chose door number 3, where they just run it back and let him hit free agency next offseason. It's really baffling the way that they're operating.
So how do you feel about the Vikings now going into the season? Because obviously you don't have Kirk there anymore. How do you feel about J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold? Is there other option?
Yeah.
How are we feeling about that?
I mean, I'm worried about their defense because I'm always worried about their defense in recent seasons. I think they'll be okay. I think it's a really good situation for J.J. McCarthy to come into. I mean, if he's going to succeed in the NFL, and I'm not the biggest J.J. McCarthy fan, this is the place where he will be able to succeed. If it wasn't for the Bears situation, this would be one of the better rookie quarterback situations that we've seen in recent memory.
Here's the question. Does J.J. and J.J. last longer than C.J. Stroud and Stefon Diggs?
Yeah, I mean, Diggs is gone after the year.
No way.
He's got a 1-year deal. He's absolutely not going to be staying there long term. So
I there's no history of Diggs just, doing whatever he wants. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I think this one will last longer than either the Texans duo or the Cowboys duo.
Yeah, for sure. Do we have a winner for the Bud Bash tickets?
We do have a winner. They have not texted in their name yet, so congratulations to the winner.
Congratulations to the 636.
And what was the answer?
77 years young.
And the question again, just so that people understand what we're getting into?
What is the combined age of Justin Verlander and Kyle Gibson, your projected starters for tonight's Cardinals versus Astros game?
Those are AARP. That's an AARP member card holder. They've been using that thing for a hot minute.
Yeah, especially Justin Verlander, who's been in the league since I was like 12.
It really feels like it at this point. He's been around for a long time. Thank you, Rocc.
Guy is my dream life. Thank you, Brooke.
You want to expand real quick?
He just does. I mean, the guy like shows up, pitches for a World Series team, wins a couple Cy Youngs, marries Kate Upton. I
knew that was going to be part of it.
You didn't think that was going to be part of it?
Thank you so much for joining us today, BK. Hopefully you had fun. I know that it was really early for you today, but we really appreciate you coming in.
No problem. It was great. Thanks for having me, guys. I'll be back in each of the next 2 Mondays for Brooke, who has 1 week left of the engaged life, and then she will be a married woman when she returns to the show in a couple of weeks. So congratulations. You're very close.
I haven't been stressed at all.
No.
Not at all. Everything's fine.
It'll be all good.
Yeah.
It'll go great. And just remember, something's going to go wrong on wedding day, and that's okay. Nobody is going to know that it went wrong other than you. You're the only one there that knows how things are supposed to go. So when they go wrong, you'll be good.
It's like radio.
Yeah, exactly. If we don't mention that we screwed up, most people don't know.
Yes, and.
Yes.
Weddings, improv, and radio. Yes, and.
There you go. Well, thank you guys. And thank you all for listening to the opening drive. Coming up next, Tim is back.
Yes.
Question mark? Just making sure. I don't know. The schedule's hard to keep up with sometimes, but we have the balloon party coming up next.
Bring gas.